So let's go with that. It is Sunday morning. It is 11:22 a.m. here in Israel. And we are here to talk about exercise and spirituality and, live stream Q&A from Jerusalem. So hit me. Wait, hang on a second. Do I have audio? Yes, it's the Nazarite, bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. So here's what it's going to be about. I'm going to read a couple of passages, not immediately, but very soon, from Rav Kook's Orot HaTchiyah, Orot HaTshuva, the lights of life, or of what would it be? Tchiyah would be reanimation, and the lights of repentance. So I'll start with one of them. Here. Now I did a quickie earlier today on spirituality and exercise. You can check it out if you want. Here's what it says in Orot HaTchiyah, the lights of rejuvenation or the lights of enlivening. Says Rav Kook. Now this is in the early 20th century. The gymnastics engaged in by Jewish youth in the land of Israel to strengthen their bodies for the sake of the collective strength of the nation refines and elevates the highest spiritual power, like the praises sung by the divine singers. So he's saying what might seem to be seemingly mundane, insignificant in these spiritual worlds, this exercise and physical activity, the gymnastics that the Jewish youth, the secular Jewish youth, are doing in the land of Israel, it actually hits a much higher note than they might think. He says, by this practice, the upper spark of the highest holiness appears within the general soul of the nation, which was previously weakened by long exile. In other words, he is conflating the long exile that weakened us, and he's saying, he's comparing the weakened state of a long exile versus the physical awakening and rejuvenation that is brought forth not by the sages and not by the masters and not by the secular socialist youth in the kibbutzim that are engaging in gymnastics and physical activity and exercise. He says, for we have holy flesh, no less than we have holy spirit. And when the youth are engaged in athletics to strengthen their physical bodies and spirits for the sake of the nation's revival, they reveal the inner holiness that is hidden within the physical dimension. This idea of the physical and the spiritual and the coming together of both of them, the idea of the unity of the divine masculine and feminine presence, right? The physical and the spiritual and what they bring together, the idea of the mind and the body and the soul and the connection between them, the idea of the epitome of health and wellness, indeed, spiritually and physically. And the fact that what might seem to be contradictory is like these secular youth are not learning Torah, these secular youth who are engaged in athletics, gymnastics, physical activity, and exercise, right? They're not out there learning, they're strengthening their bodies. And yet, when they are strengthening their bodies physically, they are giving power to the highest masters spiritually, because it's two sides of the same coin. And even, I need to mute my phone. Hang on a sec. Mute. Hold up. Okay. So even though it might appear to be something disconnected from Torah, disconnected from holiness, disconnected from the Torah and the spiritual endeavor, it's connected. It's inherently connected because the mind and the body and the soul are indeed dwelling together here in different areas, and they manifest in different ways, are expressed in different forms, but they are part of this organism, so to speak. Now, yes, you can speak of the soul being spiritual and where does it inhabit, and so on, but nobody, I think, would disagree that when he says here that the highest holiness appears within the general soul of the nation, he means that we are all one, and this can go far beyond Israel and reach to humanity and creation and earthlings as such. But over here specifically, he's talking about the rejuvenation, the reawakening of the physical that was weakened in exile, and the spiritual which was weakened in exile. And so even though you might think there is no connection, there is indeed a connection. I'll read one more short passage here. Repentance, he says, is the healthiest feeling of the soul. A healthy soul in a healthy body is bound to attain the great happiness of tshuva, of returning, of repentance, feeling in it the greatest natural pleasure. The expulsion of harmful substances works its good and healing effect on the body when it is complete in its character. Again, that physical and spiritual, the mental, the way that you express yourself, your personality traits, your character. And so he's saying that a healthy soul and a healthy body is bound to achieve this thing because there is the connection there that is inevitable, really. And you can choose to put your mind to it and you can choose to pay attention to it or not. But he is saying this seemingly disconnected from God. These secular youth who were engaged in athletics and physical activity at the time, I doubt they actually knew of Kook or were aware of his teachings or whatnot. He was the first chief rabbi of Israel. You can imagine the connection or disconnect that there was between the kibbutzim, the socialist, secular, enlightened kibbutzim, and the Haredi mindset, right, of Torah and the first chief Orthodox rabbi of Israel. And yet the connection is there. And it's unbelievable, and it's still ongoing. And the things that we do every day that are physical, we may think that they are disconnected from holiness, disconnected from, but holy means set apart. Holy means consecrated. And so if you set yourself apart, even if it's in a very physical way, you are contributing to the general spiritual well-being of the entire planet and of all creation. It does depend on your mindset. It depends on your goal. It depends on your aim, right? It depends on your vision. And these people in the kibbutzim, these people, these secular socialist youth of the kibbutzim who were engaged in physical activities, athletics, gymnastics, and exercise, they were doing it for the betterment of the nation as a whole, for the rejuvenation of the nation as a whole. And that is where and that is where it meets the spiritual in earnest. It's not as if to say that you can do anything physical and have it mean something spiritual. There needs to be intent, and there needs to be this connection to something greater than yourself. You need to create a vessel for the spiritual substance to be poured in. All right. What a waste of a handsome face, says Life at Life. Hey, if you say so, it's all good. A wild, rough, hard-thinking human, says Christian. I have my moments. Cut your hair and nose. Well, I'm not allowed to cut my hair because I'm a Nazarite, Jero, or Yero. As for my nose, no, I don't think I will engage in any rhinoplasty today, but who knows what the future might hold. I enjoy my schnoz, actually. OMG, when was the last time you took a shower and visited a barber? I took a shower an hour ago, and I visited a barber, it must have been over 20 years ago at this point. Yeah. Grigory says, scrolling through shorts and I get flashbanged by this. Yeah, deal with it, deal with it. Just scroll away if you want to. The pyramids help tune, says Wilding, the general frequency of the planet. The Great Pyramid is located at the exact physical center of the planet. Yes, I've heard this. I've heard this too. Pooperate, Jew Diddy. Diddy, do you mean P. Diddy? Puff Daddy? Sean? Puffy? Combs? That's not me. Offenders expect to be offended, says Vigil. Hey, Vigil, good to see you again. I notice Jews mention vessels a lot. Yes, Jim Bob, we do. It's all about the vessel and the light. Hey, Celtic King is here. How you doing, my man? Edomites, says Jacob. Well, no, the modern-day Jewry are not Edomites, and there are those who say that the entire people of Edom converted to Judaism, depending on how you look at it, or maybe they still exist. Wait, why can't he cut his hair? For I took a Nazarite's vow, life at life. That is why. Ignore the bullies. No, I love the bullies. I'm a fan of the bullies. I engage with the bullies. I answer the bullies, JPP DK1, but I appreciate the sentiment. I really, really do. Israel has no right to exist. What a crock. And is the property of stolen land. No, you cannot steal your own ancestral home, so that's false. The ancient claimed that land is so silly. It's not an ancient claim. We have an ancestral, historical claim going back over 3,000 years. What other nation can say that? Should France take back England? Should Russia take Kiev? Let's put it this way. If there is an unbroken presence of people calling it their ancestral home, they may very well have a claim of some sort of indigenous or historical significance. So I would say not 100%, but definitely yes. Likewise, I'm not seeking to have this greater Israel 100% kick everybody out. I'm willing to have the land, that belongs to the Creator and share it with those around me in peace and love and prosperity. It seems that one side is able to do that and the other side, not so much. But do you like bread? Yes, I am a fan of bread, Rottenstein. I truly love bread. Really. Do you love Israel? Wall Cowboy. Hi, Wall Cowboy. Yes, I do love Israel. I love Is Not Real. I love Israel. Whatever you want to call it. Yes, I do. For I am a man of Israel. Of course, it doesn't mean that Israel is doing everything right. Israel is not blameless. Israel is not without faults. Israel is not innocent. He's very Jew. Yes, Daniel, I am. Turn Gaza into a parking lot, says Duan. No, I'm not of the opinion that Gaza should be a parking lot. I'm of the opinion that all of the terrorists and combatants and warmongering, bloodthirsty death cultists, that they need to be either put to death or they need to surrender and lay down their arms, and we can make peace and we can de-radicalize both sides and live in dignity and in peace and prosperity. Are you Jew? Yes, I am, Villarreal. Yes, I am. Elites and Jews are different species, says Yenork. What elites are you talking about? I really don't know. Shalom Makorechi. Hey David, how you doing, man? Shalom, shalom, boker tov. The Gria, what do you say to those in Judaism that condemn Israel and say that what you're doing is sinful and against Judaism? These are often ultra-Orthodox Hasids. A very fringe group of ultra-Orthodox Haredi people are anti-modern-day Zionism. Even they would agree and concede and concur with biblical Zionism that has its roots in the book of Deuteronomy. So there's biblical Zionism on which there is no debate. And then there's a debate coming over here with modern-day Zionism on whether or not it is, as you say, sinful and missing the mark. Some even go so far as to say it is an abhorrent thing, an abomination that should not exist. And I say it all depends on the lens through which you view it. You can view it as the spiritual comes first and then the physical return, or the physical comes first and then the spiritual is placed on top of it. And there are opinions here and there. Halacha is not binding one way or the next. There is no rabbinic law that says that one must come first. So it all depends on how you view reality and how you choose to interpret scripture, what you consider to be binding for you. So while those who do say that the current modern day state of Israel is illegitimate and wrong spiritually, halachically, religiously, while they do have something to stand on, it's exactly in the same amount that the others have to stand on. Take a look at the dry bones of Ezekiel. Take a look at the temple and the tabernacle. The physical building, the physical tent was built first, before the divine presence could dwell there. In the very same way with the dry bones of Ezekiel, the bodies were there, right, and they rose, but only then did the spirit get called, independently, and then it resided in those bodies. And in the very same way, the physical, material, infrastructure, state of Israel is now being built, and the spiritual substance will be poured. Israel, the state of Israel, is a vessel, right? Speaking of vessels. The one with priceless art triumphs, says this guy looks like a Israel settler, says Zay. Well, first of all, I wouldn't mind being a settler, but I am not a settler. So, okay. Also, I'm not sure how many settlers have long hair like this. Maybe some of them do. Ooh, I have a nice cup of coffee and a few cookies here, but it will wait. It's still a bit too hot. Hey, Big Al, how you doing? Do some people lose value and sacredness for the Old Testament because of the New Testament? You'll have to ask followers of the New Testament. I'm not a follower of Jesus. I'm not a Christian. I don't attribute any significance insofar as faith and spirituality and religion are concerned to the New Testament. Is there wisdom there? Yes. But it's nothing that I follow, nothing that binds me. It's not a New Testament. It's not a new covenant for the Hebrews. We stick to the Torah. And other nations, if they want to claim there's a New Testament for them, by all means, go for it. Nobody's gatekeeping here. There are audio issues at times. No, NPC, there are not. Or else I think you would not be the only one who would say it. Greetings from New Zealand. Hey, Ryan, how you doing, my man? Carl says, in the Bible, the 12 tribes of Israel all around the world. Well, the kingdom of Israel, the 10 tribes, were exiled by Assyria, right? Before the exile of Babylon of the kingdom of Judah. And so we do not know where exactly all the 10 tribes are nowadays. That is true. And there are those pockets of Jewish folk, not Jewish, Hebrew folk, people from the tribes of Israel, they say, who claim affiliation with specific tribes. And it is said that there will be the revelation of Elijah, who will be able to set things right and put order from the chaos and tell people what clan, what family, what tribe they do belong to. That has not yet come to pass. And so the only ones who know Their ancestry, so to speak, are those of the tribe of Levi, the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Benjamin, who are part of the kingdom of Judah. And even then, you can dispute it because not everybody has a genealogy and a family tree going back thousands of years. Fear is the equivalent of gatekeeping. What do you mean fear is the equivalent of gatekeeping? Primer says there are audio issues. You're recording this on a potato. Yes, I am actually recording it on a potato. It's a baked potato, and afterwards I'll mash it. Why does Nazarite sound Spanish for Nazi? I do not know, and there are those who spell it Nazirites. Only because of that I could not do it, so I spell it with an A. That's the alternative spelling. Mr. Doodle. I love your name, Mr. Doodle. That's a great name. Hang on a second. Let's see. I'll check. A couple of people said it. I'll check. Do I have audio issues? Hang on a second. No, I don't have any audio issues, but you can keep complaining about it. That's fine. Hold on. I will put this a bit closer. Okay. There you go. There are Native Americans who claim to be a lost tribe. Yeah, that it makes some sense. I don't know how much sense, but it might make sense. Are you Jewish or Zionist? I'm both. FTR is MRF. I'm both. I am a biblical Zionist, a modern-day Zionist, and a Jew, a Heb, a Shylock, a happy merchant. That's me. When Messiah comes, sir, says fine test, when we merit it, when we crown the king, there will be a king. The return of the king, right? Hello, good sir. Hey, perfect Sal. How you doing, man? It's pooping. It's popping every once in a while, yes. Oh, okay, well, hopefully now it will be better. Thank you for telling me. Okay. And I'm sorry for not believing you, because some people, those who said that there are audio issues, because sometimes people say that I'm muted, people sometimes say that you can't hear. So, yeah. Are you okay? You seem upset today, mate, says NPC. No, I'm pretty good. Pretty good. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shekol hiya b'dvaro. Oh, yeah. Okay. Audio is just fine. Can you tell us what happened to the tribe of Dan? So the tribe of Dan was not able to vanquish the enemies at its border. And then it left its own physical inheritance. You can read about this in the book of Joshua, if I'm not mistaken. It left its inheritance and went more up north, if I'm not mistaken, and was assimilated by, what other tribe? Which tribe took them in? I don't recall right now offhand which tribe took them in, but Dan was actually sort of swallowed up by a different tribe in the very same way that the tribe of Benjamin was kind of swallowed up by the tribe of Judah, which is why everyone is now Jews. Most people do not know if they're Benjamites or from Judah. Those from Levi, right, the Levites and the priests know they are from the tribe of Levi, but the Judeans and the Benjamites, that's the way to put it, you can't always tell them apart. Jesus is God. I love Zion. Thanks, Brian Hall. I don't agree with the Jesus thing, 'cause I'm not a follower of Jesus, but it's nice to give Zion some love. I appreciate that. Like Big Yahoo, says Ghost. I'm not a fan of Big Yahoo. Not a fan. Perfect Cell says, stop spamming support GNG. I'm trying to steal his secrets. Fine Test says, when Messiah comes, sir, I saw a video Zionist said this year or next year. Yes, today. Messiah arrives today if only we hearken to the words of the Most High God. In other words, there are always people who are contenders for the throne. There are always people who would merit ascending and receiving the crown and being anointed by the people if the people merit it, right? There is no king without a people, they say. And so you need to have the people, and you need a consensus, and you need to be able to crown a king that will have sovereignty and authority. For that very same reason, right now, there is no high court, there is no Sanhedrin, because we cannot agree on reinstating and reestablishing the laying of the hands, like from Moses to Joshua, and we cannot actually come to an agreement on who the sages would be who would serve on the Sanhedrin, and so it's simply not happening. And it's so stupid, it's so foolish. People cling to their exilic traditions rather than manifest the true Eretz Yisrael nature and root from whence they come. It's very, very difficult. Difficult. I don't mean to simplify it in such a way and make it seem like I have the answers. I don't. But it's just foolish. It's really foolish. All religion is false, bad mental health, Big Dirty Paul. I agree to some extent. All religion definitely has the capacity to be false. All religion does have the potential of being bad for your mental health. It all has to do with how you approach religion. It has to do with what credence or authority you give it over you. Some religions hold different values. Some religions are, again, there are thousands of them, right? So I'm not going to start naming them, but within the society that you live in and the hierarchy of values that you attribute significance to, that's where you would place different religions. But to claim them all false, that in itself might be false, because I do believe that organized religion as such does have merit. There is a nugget of truth, there is a nugget of goodness and righteousness to the idea of taking on a path, a way, a discipline, a yoke, a burden, looking outside yourself, becoming something more than what you are as a lone individual, stepping out of your solipsism, so to speak, keeping it in some ways, but expanding yourself to include others. And there is something to religion that can facilitate that, but it definitely is a system made by people for people, and as such, it might be prone to corruption, it might be prone to wickedness and malevolence, and there are malevolent, wicked, manipulating actors in every religion. They use it as the opiate for the masses, and to control people and oppress people and gain wealth and power and influence, and that's terrible. That's terrible, but it's part and parcel of living in this world, a world of knowledge of good and evil. It is a duality, and religion is a duality as well. Smoochy says, doesn't that mean we should drop the labels? All in good time, right? Think of Eden. In Eden, there were no labels, right? No, right, Smoochy? Right? There was the divine revelation, humanity, and nature, right? And you can claim it wasn't physical, it was metaphysical, it was spiritual, but that is what it says in the book of Genesis, in the account of creation, in our little Hebrew creation myth, as it were. That's what there was. No Jews and Gentiles, no secular and religious, no ritual worship, right? None of that. It was very simple, very pure, very harmonious, with the potential even there for sinning and missing the mark, which came to pass later. Religion is nothing else than brainwashing. Again, Park, I disagree on general principle. It can be. It can be brainwashing. Spare your words and time. This is mouth diarrhea. Well, by all means, if you want to talk about something else, by all means, shoot. What do you want to talk about, Parked 3VG? Let's talk about that. This channel was, to discuss spirituality, religion, self-development, psychology, philosophy, and anything else you throw my way. If you don't want to discuss religion, they brought it up. I started it with exercise and spirituality, the physical activities and the spiritual activities, and them being a symbiosis, right? Feeding off each other. But if you want to talk about something else, shoot, Park. What is it you want to talk about? Nice haircut, says Quick. Thank you. I'm glad you noticed. Oh, it's nice to be noticed. Why don't you take bath? I shower because I have no bath. I love baths. I love baths so much. I love dimming the lights, lighting incense, lighting a candle, putting on music, using a bath bomb, essential oils, the whole shebang. But I don't have a bath in this apartment. I have a shower, which I do use regularly. I showered about an hour and a half ago. However, I don't have a bath here, and I miss it. I love a nice hot bath. I love soaking in it. I love just, I really, really do. Are you balding? No, Amari, I'm not balding. My high hairline is from my youth already. It sounds peaceful. Yes, it is peaceful. That is the way to have a bath, I'll tell you. Really, really is. Sniping says, I struggle to see religion as anything. How can you know for sure you haven't taken the words out of concept for which they was written? A simple message can get misread in today's age. A message can get read in any day and age. How do I know for sure? I don't know for sure. I'm putting all of my proverbial eggs in this basket, right? I at some point, I just made the decision, all right, Adonai, all right, God, all right, my creator, I am all in. I am all in. I don't know what life will throw at me. I don't know what will come, but I am all in. I no longer doubt you. And I want to follow the Torah that you have given us through Moses and follow its path. And I want to be more than I can be, more than I am now. And I'm willing to dedicate my life to understanding who I truly am and what is it that I can give to the world through the Torah, the commandments, the Hebrew covenant. So I made that decision. And I made that decision I made that decision after a lot of soul searching. So how do I know for sure? I don't know anything for sure. Nothing. The only sure thing is the Creator. That is the only absolute that there is, in my opinion. Everything else is not an absolute. Thoughts on communists? Communism, from what I've heard from actual economic professors and so on, economics professors and lecturers and so on, in the few times that I delved into it, I never read the entire manifesto, so I can't speak of the manifesto. But from what I've gathered, communism can succeed in a small commune of like 200 to 250 people, up to that number of people, and then it breaks down. You cannot scale communism without causing great harm to the civilization that you live in. It's been tried. It failed. It brought many deaths upon the world. So communism on a small scale works, and communism on a large scale does not work. History already made this point several times. So I am a fan of certain communist elements. I am a fan of certain socialist elements, but from what I can tell, capitalism, free markets, and all of that is the lesser of these evils. It's not perfect by any means. It's all screwed up as well. But out of these systems, it is the best one we have so far. And God willing, we will come to a point where things will evolve, things will change, things will progress for the better. And the thing about capitalism is, from what I've gathered, that when the tide rises, it picks everybody else up. Now, some people are caught in between and they drown, but altogether, overall, and I'm making a very sweeping statement here, everybody is picked up in this tidal wave, and I mean that in a good way, right, of capitalism. So even though communism does work on a small scale, it cannot work on a larger scale. Capitalism equals freedom, says TX Lionheart. Are you in Texas right now? Do you believe Jesus rose from the tomb? Dozer says. I have no problem believing that he did. That has a precedence in the Hebrew Bible. I don't have any problem believing that he lived and died and was resurrected and ascended. All of that has its roots in the Hebrew Bible. People who lived, people who died, people who rose from the dead, and people who ascended without dying even, let alone people rising from the dead. And so, all of that I'm willing to accept maybe has happened, but he's not God. That we have no such tradition in the Hebrew faith. We have no God in flesh. We have no God incarnate. And so for the other nations, the other faiths, the other people, by all means, you want to worship a man God, go for it. Mazel tov, have fun. It's not me. It's not us. It's not in the Torah. In the Torah, there was no revelation in flesh. That is our tradition. That is our path. Where in America are up, says L. Krupp or I. Krupp. Where in America are up? I'm not sure what you mean, my man. I'm in Israel right now. But others, people in the States, answer, where are you from? Shout it out. What are graven images, Big Al says. As far as I can tell, graven images are images of things that are physical, right? Things like the stars and the moon and the sun, right? And things like creation that exists in the sky or the land or the sea or under the sea. Okay. Does shalom aleikum make sense? Well, alechem means on you or upon you. Shalom means hello, goodbye, and peace. So shalom alechem means peace unto you. Peace upon you. That's what that means. I've been told that, but I'm not sure. I don't speak Hebrew. So that's what it is. Shalom alechem. Or if it's not alechem, if you can't do the ch, you can say k. Shalom aleikum. Like salam alaikum in Arabic. What's your views on medical cannabis? Cannabis bintemp as such is a wondrous plant. I'm a fan. I no longer partake, but I probably will again in the future sometime. I'm a fan of it. I think it should be done with caution. I think you should respect the herb, respect your mind, respect your body, set and setting. Whether it's medicinal or whether it's recreational, right? You need to be a high-functioning stoner and not a low-functioning pothead. And you need to not have your life revolve around it. If it helps you medically, if it helps you physically, mentally, if it helps you even sometimes psychedelically, that's great. But the bulk of one's psychedelic experiences should come from the inside, not from the outside, even if it's an organic plant that just grows that way. Likewise, medicine. Let thy food be thy medicine before anything else, right? So letting your food be your medicine, that's step one. Fix your diet, right? Fix your body in the ways that you can, and things can progress from there. This does not apply across the board to every ailment or disease or lack of wellness, duh. But by and large, I'm a fan of medical cannabis. Israel is famed for its medical cannabis farms. Wise to respect the herb. Yes, no, it's a wise thing to do because this was put here to bring us closer to ourselves, closer to each other, closer to the divine revelation. To mistreat the plant and to misrespect the plant would be it would be sort of missing the mark. Now, again, this is not to say that you cannot use it recreationally, but don't let your life revolve around it. Don't be always preoccupied with it. Don't be looking for that next puff, that next hit, that next. I mean, oh man, I wish I had some weed. Oh, this would be so much better if we had some weed. Oh, when am I next going to get some weed? It's like, and I also think that it should be legalized. So yes. Do you like classic rock music? Yes, I'm very much a fan of classic rock, Michael Matthew. The Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd are my first love, even before I met my woman, and I met her at 16. Can you explain what a Ashkenazi Jew is? Yes, it's a Jew, meaning somebody who was part of the kingdom of Judah, that was exiled by Rome after the destruction of the Second Temple, or before that, right? Exiled into Eastern Europe, which is known as the lands of Ashkenaz. Ashkenaz is also the name of a person, the son of Gomer, and you can read Gomer or Ashkenaz, Ben Gomer? Yes, yes. Son of Gomer, one of the few sons of Gomer was named Ashkenaz. You can read about him, the individual, the actual person, in the book of Genesis. He's only mentioned once by name, I think. And so the lands of Ashkenaz are known as, right, Russia, Lithuania, that area, right, of Eastern Europe. Not gonna lie, I wish I had some crack right now. Hey, Big Mac Orange, good to see you again. Why are you dodging my gold questions? Kozump says. Sorry, Kozump, this is the first time that I'm actually laying eyes on your username. I'm not dodging anything. There are over 100 people in the chat right now, so don't be so self-absorbed as to think that I'm intentionally dodging your questions. I literally haven't laid eyes on your username or any question until I just saw you now, ironically reading the one where you're asking, why am I dodging the question? But I did not dodge any question. Believe me, I do not dodge any questions here unless they pertain to something highly personal or something highly doxing that I would not want to answer. But even then, I would probably give you the response and say that's why. So, Kozump, if you want an answer to your question or answer, I don't have answers. If you want me to address the question that you have, by all means, you can keep writing it and maybe I'll come across it when I scroll down now. Or leave a comment because I address every single comment that YouTube notifies me of that is addressed to me, and I try to give you my full attention every single time. All right, let's scroll down. Hey, So-So is here. Don't Jews have a little bag of gold? Yes, all Jews are born with a little bag of gold inside of the placenta. And so the fetus is born, and then the placenta is birthed, and inside the placenta, there's a tiny little bag of gold. Flying says, it is very interesting to listen to you. Thank you, I appreciate that. It's lovely to have such interesting questions come my way. It's lovely to have a dialogue, a discussion, a discourse. I'm not a debater. I'm not a preacher, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a rabbi, I'm not a sage, I'm not a master. I'm a student and a learner, and I'm here to be a little less ignorant, a little less stupid, a little more silly, and to learn something, right? And to have a conversation. Why do you go live? What's the tachlis? The tachlis is what I just said. The tachlis means meaning or purpose. Tachlit in Hebrew, and it's the Yiddish way of saying tachlit. Tachlit, incidentally, let's not go with that. The tachlis is to have conversations with people. That's why I go live. Do you like the song Viva la Vida? Viva la Vida. That's Coldplay, right? I'm thinking of Coldplay? I think it's Coldplay. That's the name of the album, isn't it? Anyway, yes, I'm a fan of Coldplay. I love their earlier work. Afterwards, I kind of tuned out, but their first 2 or 3 albums, chef's kiss, for real. Good stuff. Really good stuff. Fine Text says, when Messiah comes and rule, then who is Antichrist? So anti means against, Christ means anointed one. Whoever will be against the anointed one of Israel, he is de facto Antichrist, because that's the literal meaning of that. As for the Christian way of viewing it, I'm not a Christian, I don't follow Jesus, I don't know who the Christian Antichrist is. When Messiah comes, who is the Antichrist? So there is the idea of Armilus the wicked, who is supposed to potentially slay the Messiah, son of Joseph, who will come to facilitate the material and physical infrastructure before the coming of the son of David and the final redemption, as it were. But that is still unknown. Bad things don't need to come to pass. Bad prophecies and bad traditions don't need to come to pass, or bad ideas of what the future might hold. We can bypass the bad. We can bypass the gook. We can bypass the wickedness. Wait, something came in. Sorry. I'm a fan of shawarma. Hey, Tech, you know what? I don't eat meat, but when I was eating meat, shawarma was not my go-to. I'm more of a falafel man. I've always been a falafel man. Kay says, do you consider Christians who think Jesus is God as idol worshippers? No, because again, You need to be a Hebrew for me to consider. You need to be a Hebrew to be an idol worshiper. Otherwise, you're just worshiping your gods. It's like you can do whatever you want. If you're a Hebrew, then you are worshiping an idol, and that's a bad thing for a Hebrew to do. Other people can worship whatever they want. It's freedom of religion. I think a lot of them are, but I also think most of them don't really believe it. No, because they believe in a God incarnate, and the Hebrew faith has no God incarnate, and that's the big wedge between Christianity and Judaism. That really is it. I mean, that's at the crux of it. Dozer, hey Dozer, good to see you again, man. Before you said you believe Jesus was just a human and not God. Can you tell me why that is and why you believe he isn't God? I'm curious. Oh, I just answered it, because we have no God in flesh. That's it. That's literally why. He can be the Son of God or God, Lord, Savior to billions and billions of other people, and I don't mind. And when it comes to the Hebrew people who follow Torah, the Torah says, you received no such revelation, only the revelation of a voice. You received no revelation in an image, in flesh, nothing. That's for other people. Other people can worship stone. Other people can worship the sun, the moon, the stars, the fish, a calf. But you don't do that. That is not your way. That is not your path. That's literally what it comes down to. Do you believe in the Torah code? No, I don't think so. I think much like Gematria, if you manipulate the letters and the numbers enough, you can reach any conclusion. So I don't believe in it in that sense, no. I mean, if you give me some sort of a concrete teaching and you tie a little bow of Torah code at the end of it, I'm like, okay, that's cute. That's a little flavor, a little spice to add to it. That's nice. But to believe in it as such, as something of meaning and significance, I do not, even though I do believe that the Torah in and of itself is all code. The Zohar very famously states that the entirety of the Torah are names of the Holy One, blessed be He. In other words, there is a Torah code. Is it the one that has been found? Not necessarily. I don't think so. I don't follow it. But once again, I don't dismiss it completely. I simply don't believe it in that sense, and I don't follow it in any way, shape, or form. Hey, Gordo Baby is here. Hi, Nazarite. My grandmother was Jew, but Jew lineage was cut there. I'm Christian. Can I be officially Jew? If you convert, yes. That's how you become Jewish. If your mother is not a Jew, halachically speaking, your mother needs to be Jewish. And if your father is a Jew, you are what's called the seed of Israel, Zera Yisrael, but you still need to convert. Biblically speaking, before the return from Babylon and Ezra the scribe, that is when it shifted from from the father to the mother. So the faith goes through the mother, the tribal affiliation still goes through the father, which means that if you have a Jewish mother but a non-Jewish father, you're a Jew, but not with any tribal affiliation. It's a bit of a limbo, so to speak, but it's all good. Was Frankenstein a Jew golem? No, Voodoo. I think that Frankenstein was an actual reanimated dead body. That was a human corpse, right? That Dr. Frankenstein reanimated. That's not the same thing. The golem was never human. The golem is made of clay, so to speak, or some other substance, and certain divine sacred names are written in different places to give it the likeness or facsimile of an animating force, as opposed to a human being that once had a soul, and you could argue a divine soul, an animal soul, whatever it was, an animating spirit, right? That breath of life. So Dr. Frankenstein's monster was once human, and he reanimated it. The golem was never human, and therein lies the difference, the major difference. He was calling you golem, dude. I don't think he was, but yes, I am indeed a golem. I'm golem. I'm Gollum. I'm many, many things. The monster of Frankenstein. Frankenstein was the name of the mad doctor. That is correct. That's why I called him Dr. Frankenstein. Incidentally, I love Mel Brooks' Young Frankenstein. Thoughts on 9/11 theory of Jewish influence? I have no idea. To this day, I've never seen the actual footage of 9/11 happen, because at the time I was in yeshiva when it happened. We had no TV. I heard that it had happened on the radio or something, but I did not see the footage. I saw frames here and there and different things that I've seen throughout the years, but I never actually sat and watched it, nor do I want to see many people fall to their deaths or die in a crash. But there are people who say that there was Jewish influence there in order to start a war. It was an inside job. I've heard that there are documentaries depicting how it was an inside job and showing step by step how things happened. Many conspiracy theories turned out to be true. Many conspiracy theories turned out to be nothing but that, a theory. So I am loath to give my 2 cents on this because I just don't know, and I don't think I ever will know. But I think I think that it was not the Jews, and I don't think it was an inside job. Mike Perp says, opinion on you being a nerd. Yes, I am a nerd. I am a dweeb. I am a geek. And I'm also a Poindexter. I am a Four Eyes. What else am I? Did I get them all? And a golem, of course. Opinion? I'm a fan. I am a fan. I'm a fan of being a nerd, a geek, a dweeb. I love geeking out to certain things. I love Star Wars. I love Star Trek. So yes. You didn't watch Lord of the Rings? Yes, I did watch Lord of the Rings, Lolo. I read the books and I watched the movies. Though I don't think I saw the extended... I didn't see the extended films. I saw the theatrical releases. Not in the theater, though. Opinion on the painter. Well, assuming you mean Adolf Hitler, not a fan. Assuming you mean painters at large, I am a fan. Luthien said hi. Hello, Luthien. How you doing? Was there a Luthien in Andor? I think there was. You're obviously very knowledgeable in your own religion. No, I'm not. Sandric Kerix? No, I'm not. I'm standing on the broad, knowledgeable shoulders of giants. I myself am not knowledgeable. Have you studied Christianity and Islam as well? Only very, very, very surface level, nothing too deep diving when I was a teenager, and I recently, a few years ago, read the New Testament for the first time. I loved the gospel. I did not like anything else, really. Do you think that Judaism and Islam have more similarities than Christianity? I get this question a lot. As far as theology is concerned, there's more of a connection to Islam. As far as physical, practical, expressed values in the world, it's more of a Christian thing, which is why people talk of Judeo-Christian values, but they talk of one God, of Islam and Judaism. So the air is free, but hairdresser wanted money. Yes, it's true. Hairdressers would want money, or hell, they should pay me money. Why Israel exists 1948, not before? So Jack0528, Israel did exist as a kingdom, several kingdoms, right? Several times before 1948 of the Christian counting. Israel has existed for about 4,000 years. We arrived in Israel, this land, and took it over from the 7 nations of Canaan about 3,600 years ago or so. That's the way that it's dated. The first temple was built around 3,000 years ago. The second temple was built around 2,500 years ago. The second temple was destroyed 1,957 years ago, so almost 2,000 years. Israel existed as a kingdom, as a split kingdom of Judah and Israel. Israel existed insofar as there were people of Israel in the land of Israel in an unbroken presence in this very land for over 3,000 years. The modern-day state of Israel was established in 1948 when the British left and they took their mandate of Transjordan and Palestine with them. They gave Jordan to the Hashemite kingdom of Saudi Arabia, to the Hashemite people of Saudi Arabia to establish the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan, and they let the Jews fend for themselves, and the British joined the Jordanian forces in fighting Israel in 1948. That is why Israel as a state did not exist, but it did exist as a monarchy, a kingdom, a theocracy. I'm confused. Do you believe it's okay for Gentiles to worship gods other than the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Yes. Yes. Right? All the people will go in the name of their gods. That's the way that it's always been. That's the way that it's always been. People go with different gods. People go with different deities. I have no problem with that. Okay, let's continue. Where is the confusion? I'm curious. Are Muslims Gentiles to you? They're Gentiles in the sense that they are not of the nation of Israel. That's it. That's what that is. Hang on a second. My views on the Anunnaki. That sounds so familiar. Hang on. I don't know it offhand. I do know that someone spoke of this before. The Anunnaki are deities in the pantheon. Okay, so if it's a pantheon, I do not know. I don't know enough about it. Hang on a second. I'll be right back. שלום, הוא בקייטנה היום. עד איזה 2. אז אתה יכול לשוב אז והוא יהיה פה. Okay. Here I am. back. Okay, so my views, I have no views on the Anunnaki because I don't know enough about them. Hi, empty chair. Hi, Luthien. Let's continue. Silent Nine, good to see you again, man. If his grandma is a Jew, then his mother would be a Jew, which would make him a Jew, right? No, the grandmother could be paternal. That's why. If his grandmother was Jewish and his mother was Jewish, he said himself that the line ended there. So I'm thinking maybe he meant Jewish on the father's, grandmother on the father's side. If it was from the mother's side, yes, he's a Jew. Jack says, why you guys say he's a crazy Jew? I don't know what you mean, Jack. Who's a crazy Jew? Robert says, crazy Jew. That's me. Where's your teeny Satan hat? I have no Satan hat, Casglassens. I have no tiny hat. I have the hair of the Nazarite. That is what I have. Is there like monsters or creatures in Jewish folklore? Yes, there are, Voodoo Zombie. Yes, there are. Are Arabs descendants of Ishmael? I know that that's what they claim. That's what they claim, but I don't know anything for a fact. That's what they claim. At least in our ministry, says Stoner Connection, we teach the Anunnaki are what people call the Nephilim. Okay, so the heroes of old, the giants of old. You can tell by the hair and teeny hat. So once again, I have no teeny hat, Cal. Would you share some money with me? Cal Anwar says. So all of the money that comes to this channel after YouTube takes its cut goes to charitable organizations here in Jerusalem that serve East and West Jerusalem alike. So if you are a charitable organization, Cal Anwar, here in Israel, in Jerusalem, I'll be glad to send it your way. Give me your details and some of the money will come your way. What is your opinion on Islam? Joseph asks. I have no opinion because I'm not versed in it. That's it. And if I were to go and try to deal with Islam now, it would be tainted by too much war, terrorism, bloodshed, and malevolence. So I don't want to do that. Once there is actual justice and peace and love in the region, then I will turn my attention to the Quran, the Hadith, the teachings of Muhammad, and so on and so forth. And until then, I don't want to sully anything, by having too much of a subjective view, right? I don't want my biases to come in the way of me actually learning it properly. Do you send money for Gaza support? So, Stealth Maestro Sharp, people have asked me to send money to Gaza. And I told them a few times, give me assurance 100% that I can actually validate and verify that the money won't end up in the hands of Hamas or some other terrorist organization, and I will. And they never get back to me. Ever. It happened 3, maybe 4 times, and I said, yes, I will give the money from whatever it was at the time to the children of Gaza, toddlers, babies, things of that nature. I will give the money to an organization in Gaza if you can tell me 100% it will not end up in the hands of Hamas. None of them get back to me, ever. They're all talk, no action. That's it. And I would not want the money to be handed to Hamas. Thank you very much. You have no problem with it, but do you think God has a problem with it? That's the confusion I have. Well, I don't know God. Kale Somogai. Yi. I have no opinion on that because I don't know God. All I know is how God reveals himself to me. All I know is the divine emanations, the divine attributes, the garments, the clothing through which God is revealed in the world. I know nothing of God. I don't know the first thing about God. Certainly I do not know the mind of God or what God would have a problem with. If you're talking about the attribute of ultimate divine judgment and justice, it could be that by that rationale, yes, there is something there that goes against what would be the proper thing. But if that were true, the sages who compiled the Bible would have censored those parts out, right? Would have censored, wait, I'll give you the exact verse. Kol ha'amim yilchu ish b'shem Elohav. Here it is, Micha, the book of Micha, chapter 4, verse 5. Here, let's read it in English. Micha 4:5, JPS Tanakh version. For let all the peoples walk each one in the name of its God, but we will walk in the name of Adonai our God forever and ever. There you have it. Micha the prophet himself from the horse's mouth, as it were, who said they have their deal, we have our deal, they go with their God, we go with our God. That's simply the way that it goes. And as for the mind of God and whether or not God has a problem with it, I have no idea. I really don't. I wouldn't presume to know that. But I'm not a supremacist, and I don't think that I have the right answers. I don't think that my faith is right and others are wrong. I simply think this is what I was given. These are the books and the texts and the traditions and the customs I was handed. This is the Torah. These are the commandments. This is the covenant of the Hebrews, and that's what I'm rolling with. And let billions of other people do whatever they want. Nobody needs to be Jewish who isn't Jewish. Nobody needs to follow the Torah or the commandments if they are not bound to it. They can do whatever they want. They have the freedom to do whatever they want. That is what I roll with. Live and let live. And so, is the confusion quelled? Have I satisfied your curiosity? Why don't you get a haircut, Kozum says. Because I'm a Nazarite. Nazarites are commanded to grow their hair wild and free. And that is what I do. Do you believe Islam is a religion of peace or not? Again, Michael, if I were to judge Islam by what goes on here in Israel, I think you have your answer. But it's precisely because of that. It's precisely because I have seen and experienced the terror of Islam and the terrorism of Islam and the horrible parts of Islam that I'm saying it cannot be that that is the full extent of Islam. I do not accept that that is Islam and not more and nothing else, which means that I have no opinion of Islam because of that. Is it a religion of peace or not? Time will tell, won't it? So is the Torah only for Jews? Yes, Kono Tree, the Torah was given to the children of Israel. The children of Israel chose it. In that sense, we chose the Torah chose us. Other nations were offered the Torah and they rejected it. This is the tradition. The Hebrews accepted it. We will perform it and we will hearken to it. That is what we said at the foot of the mountain, or, shortly thereafter. So the Torah is only for Jews, yes, but there is wisdom there that is more universal, which is why it starts with the creation story and not with the first commandment in Egypt. You will be held accountable. Yes, I will. Amin del Kaini 9667. Yes, I will be held accountable. I try to hold myself accountable. I try to live in a way that is responsible and accountable, and I miss the mark many times, but I'm trying truly to live such a life that I will hold myself accountable, and I try to hold myself accountable for my sins and wrongdoings and failings and faults and inadequacies each and every day. That is how you grow. That is how you get better. You don't turn a blind eye to your own deficiencies. You do what you can. You deal with it. We all have the problems in life. We all have our own individual problems. That's never going away, ever. Try not to run away from them. That's the best. Seekers, Finder says blah, 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 blah. See, this is what the internet is for. Thank you, Seekers, for finally stating what needed to be said. My God. Okay. Cut your hair, says Seekers Finder. No, I don't think I will. That's funny. The Ezo Yeshiva Hita. So I was, what yeshiva did I go to? Before the army, I was in yeshiva for 3 years in Tzfat. After the army, I was in yeshiva for 1 year in Tkoa, and I haven't been to yeshiva since, but I do want to go back to yeshiva at some point. Why did you decide to become a Nazir? I got the call, Jacob. I got the call to take the Nazarite vow, and I answered that call. That's basically it. I mean, I was being guided towards there for a long time. And I got a call that I could not ignore, let's put it that way. How do you feel about Jews that marry outside of their religion, Kozum says, that they are free to do so? I consider it to be kind of missing the mark a little bit. I consider it to be something that is a bit of a, let's put it this way. There will come a time when where we will all be unified. In Eden, there were no Jews and Gentiles. In Eden, there was no religion. In Eden, there were no borders and differences, and we will get back to that. For now, we still have borders, we still have differences, we still have the different faiths and religions and ways of life that in some ways keep us apart, in other ways we can come together. The point is for a Hebrew man to marry outside and cut his branch, or his children's branch rather, to cut his children off from the Hebrew faith, I think that's a shame. I think it really is a shame. Not a shame as in he should be shamed. Only in the sense that it's a wonderful path, it's a beautiful way, and the Torah is so significant. The Torah is such a lovely and blessed path and a way forward for the Hebrew people. And so I'm not saying nobody, everybody should be Jewish, but I'm saying that if you are a Jew and you marry a non-Jewish woman and your kids are not Jewish, I mean that's simply I see that as something. I'm not going to say bad or good, and I don't want to speak in absolutes. I will say, I'm not a fan of it. Let's put it that way. But I am a fan of love, and people will do what they want, and I'm a fan of live and let live, like I said. Isn't it a shame to think of yourself as special compared to other religions and cultures? Smoochie, I don't think I'm special in the least. The only thing that's special about the Jews is that they accepted the Torah and the yoke of the commandments, and other nations did not. But I don't consider Jews to be chosen ones that are higher, more benevolent, holier than thou, more important than thou. Our shit stinks just like the rest of y'all. And it's nothing, I think it can lead to ideas of supremacy and vanity and pride, arrogance, condescension, and I want to stay the hell away from all of those attributes to the best of my ability, which is why I consider the Jews selected and not chosen. And you could think of it, oh, that's just semantics, but no, there is something to be said for the semantics in this case, because we were selected to keep the Torah, other nations were selected to do other things. That's simply the way it goes, and not one is better than the other. Not one is higher, not one is more noble, not one is more important. I don't roll like that. Some Jews do believe that they are higher. Some Jews do believe that they are better. Some Jews believe that, that the other nations have an animal soul and not a divine soul. I don't go with that at all. At all. It's also not rabbinically, halachically binding to believe that. So isn't it a shame? Yes, I think it is a shame if you think of yourself as special. I think that you should be humble. Sit down, like Kendrick said, right? I think that if you're going to claim any kind of supremacy or superiority or specialty or specialness, you better damn well have the receipts to back it up with. Otherwise, it's just virtue signaling and it's paka 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 meaning absolutely nothing, right? Sound and fury signifying nothing. Abrahamic faith is basically endorses slavery with extra steps. Nice Rick and Morty reference there. No, I disagree so, madman. I can't speak of the other Abrahamic faiths. The Torah doesn't say you need to have slaves. The Torah says if you do have slaves, here's the way to go about it. In the very same way that the Torah doesn't say you should get divorced. The Torah says if you're going to get divorced, here's how you do it. Or be a Nazarite. The Torah does not say you should all be Nazarites. The Torah says if you're going to be a Nazarite, here is how you do it. Is that the same as endorsing it? No, it's not the same. People need to be free. Humanity was created to be free. Not free necessarily to do whatever it wants, but free to worship the Most High God, free to serve themselves and each other and the earthlings around them. We were given dominion over this earth. We are the caretakers and stewards of this earth, humanity are. And so we have a sacred duty, a responsibility, right? An honorable one. Don't squander it. And that means that slavery is not a desired thing. Slavery is not a wanted thing. It's not a welcomed thing. But if you're going to do it, which was around at the time and still is, then the Torah says do it this way and not that way. Sounds like bullshit to me, says Anonymous. Yes, religion, Torah, the commandments sound like a bunch of bullshit to a lot of people, and I'm fine with that. You can think that it's bullshit. It's all well and good. I will go along with you and say, yes, it is bullshit. However, it's bullshit that's been passed down for thousands of years, and even though the longevity of a tale does not necessarily that doesn't necessarily mean that it's significant. In this case, yes, it is. If you want to talk about faith or religion or God, that's one thing. If you want to talk about wisdom and some universal code of ethics, you can find it there in the good and in the bad. Which is why I'm saying, yes, it might be bullshit. It might be all fairy tales. The Bible could be pulled out of someone's ass. And still I say, and I maintain, there is wisdom to be gleaned from there. Right? Which is why I have no problem with people being secular, not religious. I don't consider myself religious, for that matter. Okay. Stoner connection. Behold the hand, behold the nail. So no, that is not the Tetragrammaton. That is a very, very wide misconception of what Yod He Vav He is in the Paleo-Hebrew. It does not mean that. It does not depict that. And it does not pertain, even if it does not pertain to Jesus of Nazareth in the least. But of course, Christians say that he is the Alpha and the Omega. You can see him throughout the entirety of the Hebrew Bible. He's mentioned here, he's mentioned there. He is the Lamb, he is the blood, he is the sacrifice, he is God himself. So I'm not going to go against that. I don't mean to go against that. I don't mean to debate Christians. They can do whatever they want. But if you're coming at me as a Hebrew man who has seen Paleo-Hebrew and modern-day Hebrew and who speaks and writes and surrounded by Hebrew all the time. That is not what that is. That is not what it means. And even if it does, there's nothing connecting it with Jesus. But that's cool. It's all good. What's ethical about ethnic cleansing? A very good question. Now, there is no ethnic cleansing going on now. The only ethnic cleansing that actually went on is when Joshua and the Israelite army crossed the Jordan and genocided, or almost genocided, the 7 nations here in Canaan. That is when there was an ethnic cleansing. Likewise, there was an attempted ethnic cleansing against the nation of Amalek in the time of Saul when he became king. That didn't, again, all the way manifest, but there was an attempt to do so. That is where I say it's a physical thing, and it's war, and it's bloodshed, and I'm not necessarily condoning it, but that is where I go and say, I do not know the calculations of the divine. I do not know the intricacies of how things work in this world. I am, according to tradition, right? I know that there were these wars of conquest and of annihilation. I hope they never return. I wish that war and bloodshed and conflict be lifted clean out of creation, even right now as I am speaking these words. There should be peace and love and righteousness and understanding and acceptance and embracing of one another as human beings made in the image of God. That's my go-to. So, what's ethical about it? You don't need to see it as ethical. You don't need to see it as ethical. And even though I could say, no, you need to take it in context and it's a nuanced conversation, ultimately it's war. Ultimately it's death. Ultimately it's human beings killing human beings. And that is not okay. It's not okay. I'm not defending it. I'm saying that's the case. That's what happened. Let's operate and better ourselves in such a way that it will not continue to happen. That's all I can say about that. Leitot, says David. Leitot. Have a good one, man. Do you have a wife? Yes, I do, Kozump. I've been married for 23 years. I met my wife at 16 and married her at age 20. Why does the IDF destroy statues of Jesus? Sierra asks. That was one IDF soldier in southern Lebanon who destroyed one statue. And I was against that from the get-go. I have no idea why he did that. I think it's a foolish thing to do. It's not even that it was in Israel. It would be foolish to do it in Israel, too. Why do settlers firebomb Christian churches? I'm sorry, I've never heard of a settler firebombing a Christian church ever. Ever. Now, I don't follow the news regularly, unless there's an ongoing active war. So maybe I'm wrong. People in the chat who are more knowledgeable and more news versed than I am, have you ever heard of a Jewish settler firebombing a Christian church? I'll have a cookie while you give me the answer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei mezonot. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. Okay, let's continue. If the Torah was meant to only be followed by Jews, no, once again, it was offered to other nations. It was offered to other nations. The Jews accepted it. The other nations rejected it. But okay. If the Torah was meant to only be followed by Jews, wouldn't murder and theft be okay within Gentile nations? What's different about idol worship? Well, murder and theft have to do with humanity. Idol worship has to do with God. That's the big difference. That's why. I think that's why. And again, you can talk about the 7 Noahide laws. Do they apply? Do they not apply? It's a halachic debate. It's nothing binding. There's no consensus regarding the 7 Noahide laws, which would have things like a court of justice and don't murder and so on. AFR says, in the context of forgiveness versus revenge versus 7 times revenge, what are the long-term effects for societies? I.e., the Vikings had blood revenge, but modern societies are not about revenge. So the Hebrew faith and the Torah lays this out very cleanly and very plainly. There is such a thing as revenge. Sometimes it would be facilitated by the courts themselves. If a person murders and he runs away to a city of refuge, and there were 6 of them with the potential for 3 more up north, 3 on the eastern side of the Jordan, 3 on the western side of the Jordan. And if a murderer who was indeed a murderer, if he sought refuge in a city of refuge, they would take him to trial. If he was found guilty, he would not be allowed to live. He would be put to death. As for other types of revenge, I cannot speak, but there is the idea of revenge that is in some ways permissible, but even then it needs to be condoned by the court in most cases, if I'm not mistaken. Who is Jesus to you? Says Rayleigh Joharadan. Nobody, a dead man, a potential sage, a potential prophet, and all of that, a righteous man, but a dead righteous man. That's it, no more, no less. As dead as any other man and woman of the time who are long dead and buried. That's pretty much it. Like I said, I enjoyed reading the gospel. I think there's wisdom there, but I don't take faith from it. If you sin against man, you sin against God. Yes, there is that idea. There's also that idea of the commandments between our fellow man being more significant than our commandments between ourselves and the Creator. So I understand what you're saying there. The point I'm trying to make here is that I'm not the one who will be the judge and the arbiter of what is right and wrong, which is why I say people can do whatever they want. Do we have courts of law? Yes. Am I on there? No. Do we have spiritual judges, so to speak? Yes. Am I one of them? No. So people can do whatever they want, again, within the bounds of the law and all that, and you can discuss morality and ethics until the cows come home blue in the face. But if we're talking about idol worship, I'm not going to tell someone else what to do. Where do I get off telling someone else what to do? I have barely enough trouble telling myself what to do. So I'm going to tell someone else what to do and what not to do? No, I'm definitely not going to do it, especially when we have such verses as in Micha chapter 4, verse 5. They go with their gods, we go with our God. They have their ways, we have our ways. That's the way it is. They're not supposed to be us, we're not supposed to be them, and ultimately, eventually, we will be united in celebration, united as one human race as we were back in Eden, and we will arrive at the gates of the path of the fruit of the tree of life, right? Of the tree and its fruit. Peugeot says, Mishelo Yehudi, I'll read the English. Someone who is not Jewish or of Jewish status, then he will act according to the degree of the level of connection between Jews and the study of Torah. Jews connect with each other and influence goodness and reconciliation. I don't understand. You're saying that somebody who is not a Jew is affected by the Jews? I mean, there is something to that in the sense that we see this actually, practically speaking, that 25% of all Nobel Prize winners that mean anything are Jews. See what I'm saying? Jews do affect society. Jews do affect the world, spiritual and physical alike. But I'm of the opinion that all other humans have that same capacity, have that same potential. I don't think that Jews are necessarily, again, higher, better, because it would lead me down a path, as I said, of arrogance and vanity and pride, and I'm not into that. How do you got this call of being a Nazir? I mean, let's put it this way. Let's dispel the immediate thing. I did not have an angel reveal himself to me like in the story of Samson and say, you will be a Nazarite. No, I felt the call deep inside of me for a very long time. I felt the stirring inside of me. I felt the pull towards the Nazariteship. And I asked myself for a few years, am I actually interested in this path? Am I actually interested in going for specific things in order to shed the yoke of Torah and commandments while taking on a crown of separation and making myself all higher? Or is this something that has a truth to it? Is this actually something that I am supposed to be doing? I did some soul searching, a lot of soul searching, because now I no longer consider myself Orthodox. I grew up modern Orthodox in Jerusalem. I no longer consider myself religious. And so there was that question, right? I pick and choose. I no longer keep strict rabbinic law. I do not keep strict halacha. In some things I do. In other things I'm more liberal or lenient. I pick and choose and I make no apologies. I try to choose the best, right? I'm a cherry picker, but I try to choose the best cherries, the ripe cherries, the righteous cherries. Sometimes I'm on the mark, sometimes I fail, but it's my mistake to make. So how do you got this call of being a Nazir? It's nothing that I can actually articulate, but I knew it. I knew it when I saw it. I knew it when I heard it. And I took the time, even before I took my vow of acting out the Nazirut, to some degree, even before I took the vow, because I had to be sure. I had to be sure that I'm not doing this as a way of like circumventing and making myself this or that, or putting, attaching different things to me and leaving other things of significance, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be straight and true. And I arrived at the conclusion, and maybe it's misguided, that yes indeed. How will a universal figure reconcile East and West, says Grey Goblin? In the East have prophecies of Weth westful conquest at the end of the Dark Age. Well, I reconcile that with the idea that bad things do not have to come to pass. It is up to us to do better. It is up to us to be better. It is up to us to manifest the image of God in which we each individually are created, to give our gift to the world, to be of service to others, to do acts of kindness, righteousness, charity, goodness, grace, benevolence. And in doing so, we will bridge the gaps. We will build more common ground. And so the prophecies of conquest and war and death and bloodshed do not have to come to pass. We can bypass all of the negativity and the bad vibration by embracing the good vibrations and by manifesting them in the world, day by day, thought by thought, deed by deed, word by word. So being a Nazarite is like being a gang member. Right on, Voodoo. Right on. Maple Bacon says, say that Palestinians exist. Yes, the original Palestinians were Jews, because the Romans called this region Syria Palestina, the province of Syria and Palestine. That's what they called it, and they called the kingdom of Judah that. And so the original Palestinians were Jews, and there were other people who are now calling themselves Palestinians based on the fact that there was a British Mandate of Palestine, and based on the fact that many people took after the Roman name for this area, the province of Syria Palestina. The name Palestine stuck. Some people called it the Holy Land, or Israel, if you're a Hebrew. And the people, right? There were people here who are not Jewish, to be sure, for many hundreds and maybe thousands of years, of course. But there was never such a thing as Palestine, never such a state, never such a country, never such a kingdom, never has there ever been such a place. There was the Roman province of Syria Palestina that was more than just this area of Judea, right? But that's basically what they did. The Romans gave it that name, the Brits continued it. The Brits received the mandate over Transjordan and Palestine. And then when they left, the state of Israel was established. And if the Palestinian leadership on the Arab and Muslim world had any brains, they would have, at the same moment, established a Palestinian state. But they chose death and war and bloodshed and terrorism, and they continue to make that choice each and every day, despite Israel's best efforts to give back land for peace, to reconcile, to lend a hand, towards a better future, including disengaging from Gaza 20 years ago, by the way. Hamas could have established a Palestinian state. And of course, lest we forget, Jordan ruled the East Jerusalem and the West Bank from 1948 till 1967. They didn't establish a Palestinian state. Egypt ruled Gaza from 1948 till 1967. They didn't establish a Palestinian state. I wonder why. Why? No such thing. Never has there ever been such a thing. Okay. McDonald says, I am Romanioid. Romani? Do you mean Romani? What is a Romanioid Jewish? I don't think I know what that is. Maybe I know it in Hebrew. They are the oldest Jewish communities in existence, says the Greek-speaking ethnic Jewish community in Europe. The oldest Jewish presence in Europe, with roots stretching back over 2,300 years to the time of Alexander the Great. And you speak Ladino. Do you still speak Ladino? Oh, no. You were different than the Ladino speakers, I see. That is an awesome thing. Wow. Good for you, my man. That is really, really awesome. Are you Jewish? Yes, I am, the long manimal. Yes, I am. Is the Nazarite vow permanent? So the Celtic, there are 4 different Nazarite vows. And the Samson Nazarite vow is permanent. Nowadays, when there is no temple to bring an offering to, offerings, plural, all Nazarite vows are permanent until the establishment of a temple and the construction of an altar and the purification of priests and so on. And then people who have fulfilled their days but not their vow can fulfill their vow and complete it. But the Samson vow is for life. It is binding, it is unbreakable, and I cannot annul it. That's the way that I wanted it. That is how I roll. The Nazarite vow of a Samson variety has a few different laws that don't pertain to the other 3. Bro, you got angry towards my Solomon question. No, Kunal, I did not get angry in the least. You made a statement, you didn't ask a question, then you were surprised why I didn't counter you. And I said there was no need to counter you. You did not ask a question, you made a statement. So I said, okay, that's what you think. Cool. Where is the anger there? I fail to see it. Believe me, you did not anger me. It takes a little bit more to get me angry. You would like me when I am angry. You said the settlers never firebombed a church. No, I said that I never witnessed it. If I said never, then I'm sorry. I meant I never heard of settlers firebombing a church. But I said I might be wrong. People in the chat tell me, has that ever happened? I didn't say it never happened. You'll always find some psychopathic religious extremist nutjobs who think that Christianity is idol worship and does not have any place in the land of Israel, so they'll firebomb a church. All I'm saying is, if it is done, and I'm not saying it was never done, I'm sure occasionally some dude goes nuts and firebombs a church, just like there are idiot people who spit on Christians when they get the feeling. I'm not justifying it. All I'm saying is it's unheard of. It's unheard of for Jewish settlers to firebomb a church. Does it happen? It might. It might, but it's basically unheard of. They destroyed 2 churches, one where it is believed Christ held Last Supper. Okay, hold on a second. Let me quickly Google that and I will stand corrected. Hold on. There is no record stating that settlers ever attacked a church, but documented incidents of arson and vandalism in the region do exist. The specific location associated with the Last Supper has faced vandalism and nearby arson, though it was not destroyed. That's what Google says. If you want to go against Google, by all means. So, to sum up, yes, there have been there was arson and there was vandalism. If you would have said arson and vandalism, I would have said, okay, to firebomb a church, that I didn't hear of. That's all I meant. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. I mean, technically you are wrong because the churches were not destroyed. But there was some vandalism. Of course you'll find people who will vandalize a church. You'll find people who will vandalize anything and everything. Who did you Google that so fast? Well, I did a copy-paste. That's it. I highlighted it and I put it on a tab. And I opened up a tab. Free Gaza, says Math Geek Forever. I agree. Free Gaza from Hamas. Free Gaza from the bullshit terrorist groups. Free them from their actual oppressors, their death cult, dictatorships that oppress them and rule them with an iron fist and piss all over them and steal their money and bring them, use them as human shields, treat them like cannon fodder, stick them between their own asses and the IDF's asses, just for sport, for the glory of Allah, for them to be martyrs and to line their bank accounts with money, and for propaganda purposes. That is terrible. McDonald says, make Gaza Israel again. I mean, no, I'm not for that either. As far as I'm concerned, they should establish a state there, but not a terrorist state. Let them do it. Hamas could have established a Palestinian state there. They were elected democratically after the disengagement. Israel unilaterally withdrew in 2005. Hamas was elected in 2006. And if they wanted, they could have made Gaza into a beachside paradise. They decided, no, we're not going to invest in the actual quality of life of Gaza and its population. No, we're going to steal all the money. We're going to raise prices in the black market. We're going to train more people, dig more tunnels, buy more munitions, and use the homes, mosques, schools, hospitals, residences, UNRWA vehicles, Red Crescent ambulances as bases for terrorism. That is the way of Allah. That's what they did. That's what they said. You ever wondered, what if we just ditched religion altogether? Yes, I have wondered. And I think that will be the case eventually, but we are not there yet. Can't you make an altar like Abraham? No, Broseph. According to rabbinic law, once the temple was established, that is the only temple and altar that are allowed to be in existence. And if you're a Samaritan Jew, you believe that it was on the Mount of Blessings, Har Grizim in Nablus, in Shechem, and they do have an altar there and they sacrifice the Passover lamb there every year. But if you are not a Samaritan Jew, you may not build an altar that is not... Now, it has been done. Obviously, altars were built all over Israel, all over the kingdom of Israel, all over the kingdom of Judah. All you need to do is read the book of Kings in order to understand that it never went away, ever, until the destruction of the first temple. And at the beginning of the second temple era, the inclination of worshiping false deities or worshiping God in a false way, that was taken out. That was taken out of the equation. Until then, it was very prevalent to worship false gods. It was very prevalent to build foreign altars. So yes. Yes. Let's continue. Maybe Gaza becomes Israel with Palestinians who coexist with Jewish neighbors, free of Nazis this time. Well, look, there are 2 million Arab Israelis, Muslims and Christians living here with equal rights who are free to do what they want, with freedom of religion, right, with freedom of speech, with members of their population in the parliament running for election this October, and they're in every echelon of society and civilization in the land of Israel, in the state of Israel, I should say, and nobody has a problem with that. They are citizens, just like me, just like my brothers and sisters of the Hebrew faith. The fact that they're Muslim or Christian, okay, they're citizens of Israel, they're Arab Israelis, 21% of Israel, right? 1/5 or thereabouts. And so, I think that if Israel wanted to annex Gaza, it would have done it. It would not have disengaged. Israel actually offered Gaza to Egypt in the peace accords, and Egypt said, no, 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 we don't want to touch that. You keep that. That's your hornet's nest. Get in my belly, says Goon Squad. Jay Pepper says, connecting everything we've just explored, your Gematria calculations, the Hebrew linguistic roots, and your study of Daniel's timeline prophecies name Yosef Yohanatan Pilpel. Say what now? I'm guessing you're referring to somebody in the chat. Matt Buck says, cockroaches are hard to get rid of. Yes, we are cockroaches, we are rats, we are gnats, we are vermin, we are, the Jew bug is difficult to exterminate. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Silent Nine says, a righteous Jew, isn't he better than a righteous Gentile? Again, it's not a question of better. It's not a question of better. He is different. Equal but different. That's how I see it. In the very same way that I see men and women. Equal but different. That's it. There is an Arabic political party in Knesset. Yes, there are several political parties, and one that is a joint party of Jews and Arabs. KCP says, stop the illegal settlement of the West Bank. I agree. I agree. If it's illegal, it should not be there. I am for legal settlements. I am against illegal settlements, and I am against illegally settling a place and then making it legal after the fact. I don't think that's cool either. So yes, on that we are agreed. I just received my $7,000 US, says Sebastio. Good for you. Are you going to invest it? Is it to pay bills? What are you going to get? What are you going to do? Is it for savings? They do not have the same rights. Robin, do you live in Israel? They absolutely do have the very same rights as anybody else. We carry the same ID card. Citizen of Israel. How can I learn more about the Nazarites? Adiku. Hi, I think you've been here before. Maybe not. How can you learn more? Well, first of all, you can go to nazirut.com. That's Rabbi Harav Nazir, the Rabbi Nazarite Gavriel David's website. And there are books, right now in Hebrew, but I'm sure you might be able to find information in English. And if you want to hit me up in the DMs, and this applies to all of you out there, hit me up, Hebrew Nazarite across the board. X, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, look for my tree. I don't post really, but I'm there for the DMs for occasions such as this. Not to claim that I am the end-all be-all of Nazarite knowledge. There are Nazarite elders and others who are more knowledgeable than I. But if you want to get in touch with me to ask questions on the Nazarites and the Nazariteship, I can definitely be your go-to. I took my vow 16 years ago, and I still have a long way to go. I'm not claiming that I have attained the epitome of the Nazariteship. It is an ideal that keeps on furthering itself away from me as I walk the path. But I have had some experiences, and I do know a thing or two about being a Nazarite. And if you want to learn more, Google it. But if you want to speak to me, by all means do. Did the Jews build the pyramids? As far as I can tell, no. The pyramids were around a long, long, long time before that. A long time before that. Are you in the old city? No, Silent Nine. I'm not far, but I'm not in the old city. Kunal says, what's the point of being Nazarite, or you did it for publicity? Do you think I would take a vow for life for publicity? What sort of publicity would I possibly bring myself by being a Nazarite? No. The point of being a Nazarite changes from one Nazarite to the other. The Torah only gives the prerequisite of a man or a woman of the Hebrew tribes. That is the prerequisite for being a Nazarite and for taking the vow. A man or a woman of the Hebrew tribes. That's it. A man or woman of Israel. That is who can take the Nazarite vow according to the Torah. As for the point, it changes from one Nazarite to the next. The Nazarites that I've spoken to each had their own call to the Nazariteship. Each put their own little twist on it, let's say. Each have their own ways of approaching it. And I've been asked, what does it do for you? And I tell people who ask this each and every time, there are some things you don't get to find out unless you are all in, right? There are some games you don't get to play unless you are all in. And the Nazariteship is one of those games. It's one of those things where you don't truly know what it can do for you, spiritually, physically, individually, on a personal level, until you are in it all in, all the way, balls deep in the Nazarite ship. Can you bark? Yes. People, are you clipping this? How would you like me to bark? You know what? I'll just go for it. I mean, one of the kids is still asleep up there. Summer vacation, am I right? So I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do a little yap. There, I barked. I yapped. Who was the first Jew? So if you're talking about Jew, as in the kingdom of Judah, right? It comes from the tribe of Judah, of Benjamin, and of Levi. That is the kingdom of Judah. That is the remnants are called Jews. Who was the first Jew? You could claim that it was Judah, son of Jacob. I mean, there was no first Jew. Jews are the remnants of a kingdom. There was no first Jew. I like this guy, says Steve Keen. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I like you too, Keen. Why, I'm keen on you, Steve. Another cookie. Oh, let's get my Cookie Monster face on. Cookie! So good. Okay. Alright, let's continue. Silent Nine says, bro, is someone with Jew blood spiritually better to God? Again, ask God. I don't know God. All I know is how God reveals himself to me. So is someone with Jew blood better to God than a non-blood Jew? No, not at all. Converts are welcomed. Converts are seen as even higher because they chose it of their own volition. And they did not have to become Jews. They felt the call and they answered it, and that is commendable. And in that way, they are higher than, spiritually speaking, than people born into the faith. Did you attend Burning Man, good sir? No, I never did attend Burning Man, Patriot. I don't think I did. I don't think I will either. Not really. What dietary restrictions are on people who take the Nazarite vow? To abstain from anything grape-related, anything to do with the fruit of the grape. That's it. I mean, I took on veganism as well as an addenda, not as inherently part of the vow, because I see the Nazarite ship as the sanctification of life. And so I was vegetarian at the time and I went vegan. And at some point I'll also go raw vegan if I find it to be sustainable for me. But those are the only dietary restrictions. So no wine, no grapes, no raisins, no wine vinegar. Things like balsamic vinegar are not allowed. And anything to do with the grape, any strong drink made with grapes or that has grape mixed inside of it. That's it. You look like your daughter's name is Pandora. Well, I have no daughters, Tony, but I think that if I would have a daughter, I would not name her Pandora, but okay, that's cool. That's cool. Hey, Bazazai was here. Good to see you again, man. I'm super vegan, says Ahmad. That's nice. Being super vegan is nice. I mean, I'm not a militant vegan. I don't think everybody should be vegan. People are free to do their own thing. I'm not a fan of factory farming, but I do understand the necessity in this day and age. Meat is indeed one of the most complete proteins and fortifying things for the human being. We are omnivores, right? How about grapefruit? Just kidding. I've never heard a grapefruit crack a joke, but if I did meet a grapefruit just kidding, I would say, grapefruit, you're not just kidding, you're also delicious. How do you have Shabbos without grape? I sanctify the day on the challah. There are two ways to make kiddush, to sanctify the day. I sanctify it 3 times, once in the night, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. And I do it with 2 loaves of bread, with 2 challahs. That's how I do it. There's kiddush al hayayin, sanctifying it with wine, and there's kiddush al hapat, sanctifying it with bread. And I sanctify the day with bread. Havdalah, right, differentiating between the holy and between the sacred and the days of labor, I do with anything that is not water. That is the halacha. That is what I follow. And before people ask, I do 4 cups of apple juice or apple cider. That is the tradition on Passover, on the Seder, instead of 4 cups of wine. That is the tradition of the Rabbi Nazarite David HaKohen, who was the Nazarite rabbi of Jerusalem. That's what he was known as. And he died in the 70s. So that's how you can do Shabbat without grapes. Can Jews smoke weed? Again, it's a halachic debate. It depends who you ask. I say, hell yeah. But as always, respect the herb, respect your body, respect your mind, be a high-functioning stoner and not a low-functioning pothead. And don't let it rule your life, right? You be its master. Don't let the plant master you. Use it, do not abuse it. Can you drink non-grape drinks like whiskey and beer? Yes, the Nazarite is allowed, but I cut out all alcohol. Again, as an addenda, I went vegan and I cut out all alcohol because, as far as I'm concerned, I was ready to say goodbye to alcohol. I am a fan of beer. I'm a fan of whiskey. I love a good single malt, but I'm fine with never partaking of it ever again. So it's not part of the vow, but those are two things that I took on as an addition. You can see what I mean when I say that different Nazarites treat the Nazarite trip differently. Even though those two things are not part of the vow, I saw them as the completion of sorts when it came to me and my personal vow of dedication. So I stopped drinking all alcohol 16 years ago, and I became vegan 16 years ago. Let's continue. Alcohol is a trap. I mean, some say yes, many people die from it, many people die because of it. But it's also a great thing, right? And wine makes glad the heart of man. Yain yisamach levav enosh. So there is a benevolent force of wine, and there is a malevolent force of wine. There's a forgetful and abusive part, and there's an jubilating, right, and elating part of it. And so it really does depend. Really does depend. Adil says, why are you Jewish if you don't have evidence and truth? Because I have tradition. That's what I have. And I see the truth in it, and I see the evidence in it. I no longer need any evidence. I no longer need any proof. I've already received personally, just me, all the proof that I need for the validity of Torah in my life and the existence of a creator in the way that it manifests in the world and is revealed to me. I no longer doubt that in the least. But that does not mean that it is the epitome of evidence and that it is the epitome of truth. Those things can be disputed. I don't mind. Dispute them. They're good for me. That's it. All of the other billions of people in the world can do what they want. Are you the voice actor of SpongeBob? No, I actually have never really seen SpongeBob. I saw one of the movies with my kids on the TV, not in the theater. But yeah, I was a little too old for that. Smoke weed responsibly, is that a good statement? Yes, it is. But, if you can, don't even smoke it, because any type of smoke is not really good for you. If you can eat it, I think that would be best. But yes. So you believe drinking is a tough thing? No, actually it's very easy to drink. Very easy. Watch. Huh? See, I was drinking right now. Very, very easy. You'll get the hang of it. Are any Christians in Jerusalem? Many Christians in Jerusalem, Ahmad. Many. Allah Akbar on you, bro. Wishing you more success. Thank you. I appreciate it. Allah Akram. Do you believe in war? I believe there is such a thing as war, and I believe that it's one of those things that will be taken out of the equation in due time and due season. Nazir nikra choteh, Jacob says. No, not necessarily. A Nazir brings a sin offering. A Nazir Shimshon brings no offerings. But the idea of the Nazir choteh, the Nazarite Rabbi Uri Einhorn here in Jerusalem, he says Nazir choteh ad Rabbi Yazir. That's one of his lines. But the Nazir nikra choteh, not exactly true. Nazir lezman katzuv nikra choteh. A Nazarite for a set period of time is called a sinner, and that's twofold. Some people say it's because he abstained or she abstained from wine. And some people say it is because he or she did it for a set period of time and not for life. Therein lies the sin, missing the mark. Ma'alin b'kodesh ve'in moridin. We go higher in sacredness, but not lower. And so for a Nazarite to take a temporary vow, but then go back, the Torah even says this. It says, ve'achar yishteh hanazir yain. Why is the Nazarite called a Nazarite after the vow was fulfilled? Because there is still something there, a reshimu of some sort, an impression of some sort that it made upon the individual. And that is why the Torah still calls them a Nazarite even after the vow has been fulfilled, as they are drinking the wine. But I digress. Yes, Nazir lezman katzuv nikra choteh. That is true. Also, Adam ein tzadik ba'aretz asher ya'aseh tov velo yecheta. There is no one righteous in the land who will do good and not sin. Sinning, missing the mark. I just did a short and we had a Q&A the other day on sin, iniquity, and transgression, and the differences between them in halacha, the differences between them conceptually and practically. Pardon me. Miscellaneous Goon. Love the name, dude. Why do you consider yourself non-religious? Because I don't want to make it seem as if I am representing the faith of the Jews or the Orthodox religion. That is why. Your practices and beliefs seem to adhere to a distinct doctrine. Is it purely cultural to you? No, no, no. There is indeed a distinct doctrine of Torah and commandments. I cleave to the Hebrew covenant to the best of my ability, sometimes not to the best, but I damn well try to aim myself in such a way that it would be to the best of my ability, to cleave to the covenant of the Hebrews and to the Torah and the commandments. I consider myself non-religious because I no longer follow and adhere to strict rabbinic law in all things. That is why. I have no rabbi that I go to with questions. That is why. I don't go with the mainstream organized rabbinic Judaism in some things. That's why. Also, there's so much judgment, so much division. So much division. Seriously. So, no. What is your first language? Celtic King says. I am bilingual, English and Hebrew. And I can read fairly well Eretz Yisrael Aramaic. Why every Jew is rich? Not every Jew is rich, Kunal. Never believe a Jew, Raul says. Well, I can't speak for the rest of the Jews. Definitely do not believe me. Do not follow me. Do not think that I'm right. Do not, don't believe a word I'm saying. Do your own research. Seriously, take everything I say with a big old stinky grain of hummus. McDonald says, will Mashiach be Ashkenazi, Mizrahi, Sfaradi, Jewish, or could he be mixed? So he will be none of those things, because he will not be some exilic Jew, right? That's not what the Mashiach is about. The anointed king will be there and will unite the people. So he will just be a Hebrew man. That's it, right? Ashkenazi, Mizrahi, Sfaradi, those are things having to do with exile. Sfaradi is from Spain, or that area. Ashkenazi is Eastern Europe. Mizrahi is from the east. Those are all places we were exiled to. They are not part of the root. They are not our home. Those were the places that we were kicked out of our home. Those are the places where we ended up. And yes, many customs and many traditions and many ways of life were progressed and evolved, but now we are back home. Now we are back in Zion, and yet we cling like grim death to these exilic practices and traditions and customs because of thousands of years of exile. So I understand on one hand why it is that way. And on the other hand, I'm like, damn, we didn't not come back here to just stick to the old ways. There are more ancient ways. There's a more ancient path that began here, not in the east of Europe, and not in the east of the world, and not in Spain. All right. Oh, so very ordinary, says EHN, you rock. Thanks, man, I appreciate that. Dog shit, says Justin Skate. Yes, dog shit. Little tiny pebbles to the big old St. Bernard shits. Respect. How do you feel about black Israelites? Peace, love, butt stuff. Butt stuff's all right. How do you feel about black Israelites? Not one way or another. Are you talking about black Hebrew Israelites as such? I've had connections with them in the sense that they come at me online. All of them that have been in touch with me. That does not represent the entirety of the community, but all of them that I've been in touch with online have been racist, bigoted, hateful, spiteful, angry, militant, and not pleasant in the least. But I know that that's not all of them. How do I feel about those people who've been in touch with me? Not the best. How do I feel about people who have black skin and are part of the Hebrew tribes? Great. Can Yahweh defeat Kratos? And you know what? I think Kratos is part of the Greek pantheon, and Adonai, right, Yod He Vav He, is part of the more ancient Canaanite pantheon that then was kosher to become the Hebrew god. So I'm thinking no. But we'll have to wait and see. Maybe in the next God of War video game, it will be. We'll see the one-on-one. Maybe. Whose fault was it, Adam or Eve? Neither one of them. It was the fault of the land. If you look on the third day of creation, the land was supposed to bring forth fruit trees bearing fruit, but it brought forth, in actuality, fruit-bearing trees. In other words, on the third day of creation, it was the earth itself that first missed the mark. Later, 3 days later, later on in evolution, humanity was created, so to speak, from that very earth. And so inside of its very creation, inside of it, in the element of earth that we are, that makes up part of us, we had that inclination to miss the mark, just as the earth that we came from had missed the mark. And this is fundamental. The idea of a fruit tree bearing fruit and a fruit bearing tree The idea is this, that in the beginning, right now when we have a tree, only the final product, right? The roots and the bark and the leaves and the flowers and the stems and all of that, that is not the fruit. It does not taste like a fruit. It does not sustain you like a fruit. It does not look like a fruit. We only have the final product after all of that progression that is actually the nourishing and sustaining fruit. But a fruit tree is supposed to be something where the tree itself has those very same sustaining properties, and the flavor, the taste, the nourishment is of the very same, from the root to the fruit, throughout the entirety of the tree. And so that's what it was supposed to be like, that every part along the way would have that same sort of taste and flavor, so to speak, of the final product. But the earth missed the mark and only brought the final product in completion, the fruit. And the rest of the tree, despite its usefulness, is not precisely what the divine revelation had intended, so to speak. And so, from wanting a fruit tree bearing fruit to executing a fruit-bearing tree, and later on from that earth came humanity, we already had that inside of us, that inclination to do something else. Do you brush your teeth with dog shit? Not regularly, no. Matt Bach 4392. No, I don't. God made a mistake? No, it's not a question of God making a mistake. That was from the onset, much like the Lurianic breaking of the vessels was supposed to be that way, in order for us to become more than what we are. In the very same way, the earth missed the mark and humanity missed the mark. So now, the next time that we approach Eden, it will be an Eden of our own making. It will be an Eden that we have merited, that we have created as co-creators, as made in the image of God, being co-creators like the divine. We would have made it happen. We will have made it happen. It's not something that was given to us. That's part of the deal. Okay. Kunal says, you really think you are doing some world-saving act by being a Nazarite? When did I say that? Am I saving the world? Hell no. I'm busy saving myself. You're talking to me about the world? I don't know anything about the world. So, Kunal, you seem to be making these assumptions, or maybe it's a question. No, there is no world-saving act. This is just me doing my thing. I'm one simple Hebrew dumbass in the Middle East with a phone and a cup of coffee, almost done. Should I have the last cookie? Soon I'll have the last cookie. That's all that this is. Do you wash your hair at any time? Yes, I do, Genors. Yes, I do. I shampoo it fairly regularly. I condition not as regularly, but I do. And I put a hair mask on, argan oil if I can get it, usually. And yes, and I shampoo the scalp regularly. I keep it clean and neat. JB says, many Jews, Hasidic, do not wash or cut their hair. Many Hasidic Jews do not cut their hair? Are you kidding me? Hasidic Jews shave their head and keep the two long locks. The side curls, the peot. Do you even know what you're talking about? I'm guessing no. Lots of dandruff, maybe. You're just a guy, why so preachy, the big plopper says. Love the name, plopper. I'm not a preacher, and I'm not being preachy. Not even a little. We are having a discussion. It's an exchange of ideas. So if I seem a little bit energetic and passionate about it, it is because I'm energetic and passionate about the ongoing discourse in this live stream on this channel. That is why. But I'm certainly not preaching. I'm not Bible waving, finger waving, none of that. Really. Of course I'm just a guy. I'm not even a guy. I'm a quasi-guy. I'm trying to be a good guy. A kind guy. I don't hate you, I hate your government. Fair enough, Neo. Fair enough. Are you an IDF member? I was discharged 5 years ago from reserve duty. I did mandatory service and reserve duty until about 5 years ago. Hey, local Max, hello again to you. Stop George Soros from bankrupting countries. I'm not sure what George Soros is doing. I don't know what he has done. All I know is the name. I don't know who he is or what he is. I really don't. But sure thing, B1984. Sure thing. I can't do it. Maybe people who are actually living wherever George Soros is, presumably the US, right? Pardon me. Maybe they can do something about it. Awakening said, I would love to hear your view on Palestine, Israel. It would be amazing if you could both share the land you both have huge connections to. They are your distinct cousins. Grateful to understand. Yes, I agree. We need to de-radicalize both sides, bring justice, and then will follow peace. That is the vision. That is where it's going. And I have no idea how, but that's where it's going. You are at a deli picking up a few days' food. What are your go-tos? I don't eat meat. Sorry, man, you picked the wrong dude to ask. You picked the wrong dude to ask. I have no idea. I haven't eaten meat in almost 20 years. So I really don't know what to tell you. 20 years? Yeah, almost 20 years. Maybe 18 years. Something like that. I don't recall. But it's been a long time since I ate meat, so I have no idea. I really, really don't. I really don't. How old are you? I am 43, Gaff and Cool. I'm 43. So yes, Awakening Head Shop Dairy. That is my view. That is my vision. De-radicalization, justice, peace. They flow one into the other. That's why he looks so frail. No, I looked frail even when I was an omnivore, even when I ate meat and poultry and fish regularly, cheese and eggs. Even then, I'm genetically more, I'm genetic. It's genetically difficult for me. I have a very, very high metabolism. It's difficult for me to gain weight. It's difficult for me to gain muscle. Even before, I mean, I do it. I'm able to do it. I work out regularly, a few times a week at least, and I keep active. In that sense, I am maintaining my health and wellness physically. So I might look frail, but that's simply the way that I am. I'm a bit of a stick man, but I'm not, I'm skinny fit. See what I'm saying? Okay. Be cool if we just all respected each other, says Ross, and told stories and had fun while working hard to improve us. Yes, that would be pretty good. 43 looking 63. Really, I look 63 to you? I don't mind. By all means, you can think that I'm 63. I don't even think that's true a little bit, but if you say so. Age is just a number. Good day to you from Belgium. Thanks a lot, Ima Flexonio. And to you. And to you. Smoochy says, you already know this, but you look great and people will attack how you look. If they can't form an argument, I value your effort and what you are shining. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Hey, look, you know what? When I was an early teen, I hated who I was and the way that I looked physically. And then I decided, I must have been 15, I stood in front of the mirror naked and I said, screw this. From now on, you're loving yourself no matter what. This is you. This is your body. Go for it. Love yourself. Don't hate yourself. There will be enough people in this world who will hate you for all kinds of reasons. Do not join their ranks. I'm paraphrasing. But that, ever since then, ever since I'm 15, I decided, despite my inadequacies, and despite the places where I fail, despite my appearance, which is disgusting and inesthetic or unesthetic to some, fine. It's all well and good. The only one I need to look good for is my woman. And if she thinks I'm good enough for her, physically, no, that's all I need. It's literally all I need. Imagine the money you would be save on razors. Well, Jews don't use razors. Orthodox Jews, anyway, Jews who follow halacha. Do not use razors, they use electric shavers usually. Be honest, do you really believe the Jewish stories are real? It doesn't matter to me if they are real or not. As far as I'm concerned, the entire Bible can be pulled out of someone's ass. The question is there wisdom to be derived from it? Is there wisdom to be gleaned from it? And the answer there is, for me, inevitably, yes. Ultimately, there is a lot of wisdom to be gleaned from there. And I pick and choose, and I sharpen my view, and I choose the lens through which I view the Bible. Also, please do remember, the Bible was never commanded to be written down. That was canonized by our sages after the destruction or around that time of the Second Temple in order for the Hebrew people to have one canonical collection of texts. We were never commanded to write down the prophets, the prophecies, the writings, the scrolls, never commanded to canonize them. As far as I know, the 5 books of Moses were, and indeed Moses wrote 13 scrolls, one of them at the Ark of the Covenant, 12 to 12 tribes, and so on and so forth. But the Jewish stories, it doesn't matter to me if they're real or not real. What matters to me is now what? I have these stories, I have these allegories, these fables, these archetypal tales. What does it mean? Why have they been handed down to me? What can I learn from them about how I'm supposed to behave? What is it that I'm supposed to learn from them about how I treat other people? What is it that I'm supposed to learn from them about the nature of the divine revelation and corresponding to it? What is it that I'm supposed to emulate? How am I supposed to talk? What am I supposed to wear? What am I supposed to eat and drink? You see what I'm saying? How do I comport myself in the world? Are Jewish obligated to marry Jewish? Halachically, yes, person. Halachically, according to rabbinic law, yes. Have you read the book I suggested to you some days ago? Well, I'm actually reading The Brothers Karamazov right now, Dostoevsky, so no. I don't remember. I think I wrote it down, but I don't remember. I didn't get to it at any rate. I think I wrote it down. I don't remember which one it was offhand, but I do think I wrote it down on my list of things that people shout out here in the chat that I should see or read or view. Haters gonna hate. Yeah, exactly, Kedalia. Haters gonna hate. I'm just gonna shake. Shake it off. Shake it off. Ah, ah. You in Jerusalem? Yes, I am, Gabriel Phillips. I'm in Jerusalem as we speak right now. All of that is a waste of time, says Radman. Yes, many things are a waste of time. Some things more, some things less. Hope you're having a good weekend. Indeed, I mean, the weekend ended last night for me, but now it's the first day of the week. But yes, I had a great Shabbos, a wonderful, bountiful, lovely weekend to take time and pause, and I hope you're having a good weekend too. It's good to see you again. Do you think we come from apes? Yes, I believe in the account of Genesis, and I believe in evolution. Both of them coincide as far as I'm concerned. I did just a short while ago on evolution and creation, and there was a Q&A afterwards in the live stream, so if you want to check that out, check that out. Do you hide your money in your mattress? No, Kip, I do not. I do not hide my money in my mattress. If you live by the Bible strictly, if that is possible, you won't go wrong. Scott Anderson says that. Well, look, A.J. Jacobs, the writer, he wrote The Year of Living Biblically, where he adhered to the Bible as strictly as possible. It's a great read. He lived a year going by the Bible as strictly and literally as possible. He even stoned an adulterer with tiny pebbles in Central Park after he got consent. It's a great book. It really is a great book. So you can go wrong insofar as modern day civilization is concerned. But if you live by the Bible strictly, it depends on what you attribute greater strictness to. What is it that you prioritize? You always prioritize something. There are the smaller things, the larger things, the things that come once a week or once a month or once a year or every day. What is it that you are prioritizing? What is it that you are, right? You have your own inclination. You give more mind to certain things. You give more attention to certain things. You have more intent behind certain things. Even if you do claim to follow the Bible strictly, you will still find by your own unique makeup of genetics and experience and life that you attribute more significance or more attention to specific things. What is it that shines before you? That is the question. But yeah, I suppose it is possible to follow it strictly all the way. I'm not sure how that would go about. Why are there 8 genders in Talmud? I don't think there are 8. I think there are 7. Maybe it is 8. Maybe it is 8. 6 or 7. 6, 7. 8. Okay, let's go with 8. There are 8 genders in the Talmud because there are 8 different halachic, right? As far as rabbinic law is concerned, not sexuality, not sexual expression, not identity. Halacha, rabbinic law, differentiates between certain types of people, right? Male, female, intersex, people who haven't matured sexually and have some sort of a disorder, androgynous people, hermaphrodites, right? You have all kinds of different people, and people are calling that gender. That's not precisely gender in the sex versus gender, thing that goes on now, where one of them is genetic and biological, and the other one is sexual expression and sexual identity. People are trying to make it seem as if the Talmud also has this spectrum, which it does, but it pertains to specific halachic rulings that have to do with a person's maturity, sexual maturity, because that actually has halachic implications. It has meaning. There is intent behind there. And there are certain things you can and cannot do if you are underage or of age, if it's the age that comes first or the sexual maturity that comes first, if it's somebody who you don't know if it's a man or a woman because their genitals are covered, and how do you deal with it? It has to do with halachic rulings pertaining to things that have to do with biology. Biology, not identity and expression, right? Not I feel like a woman. That's not what I mean. That's not what the Talmud means either. That is why there are 8, let's go with 8, genders in the Talmud. What about 3-year-olds? So in these, right, in halacha, or in the Talmud rather, that's not where halacha is ruled, it's where halacha is derived from. In the Talmud, you have the different arguments and the debates, the discussions, the back and forth on what halacha ought to be in whatever case. And so if you're coming to having a conversation about the nature of what rabbinic law should be mainstream, right? You have opinion A, B, and C. One of them needs to be made into binding halacha for the masses to follow and be codified, right? It can change and so on, but right then and there, for all intents and purposes, you need to choose one. It doesn't necessarily invalidate the other two opinions, but one of them needs to be one that is written up as halacha for the mainstream to follow. And in order for something so all-encompassing to be decided on a basis of merit and on the basis of consensus, on the basis of something that the masses can actually follow and carry out and perform in the world, you need to define the parameters of what you're talking about. So when a 3-year-old, right, or for that matter, an 11 or 12-year-old, who are not yet bar mitzvah but maybe maturing sexually, bar or bat mitzvah, the point is, in the discussions and the debates and the conversations on what halacha ought to be in the Talmud, they bring the parameters. And in some cases, those parameters include somebody who is 3. And so people who are idiots, and I mean idiots because they think they know what Talmud is, not because they're just idiots. They think they know what Talmud is, and they cite it, oh, the Talmud says a 3-year-old, you can sleep with a 3-year-old. No, it doesn't. It doesn't say that at all. It brings the parameters of what we're talking about here. And it starts at 3 years old. It does not condone having sexual relations with a 3-year-old. That is not what the Talmud says. Because the Talmud also says, and halacha also says, there must be consent. There must be consent. In order to sleep with somebody, there needs to be consent. And halacha is very, 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 rape is seen as akin to murder in the Torah. Let's put it that way. At least under certain circumstances, it is akin to murder. That is actually in the Torah. Not even the oral Torah, right? The written Torah. It's like they equate rape with murder, with actual murder. So the 3-year-old thing is defining the parameters. It's not saying you should have sex with 3-year-olds. That's not a kosher thing. Let's continue. I'm live. Yes, I glitched, but I'm back. Hello, I'm live. I'm back. Yes, a frenzy of delusion, says Stephen W1B. You're darn tootin' right. I'm in a frenzy of delusion. Yes, I am. I'm a delusional frenzy heave. That is what I am. Pardon me. Ernie says, there is no difference between biological and behavioral. Stop bashing your ideas on a book written by long-dead, arrogant, ill-informed people who are really part of the problem. I don't know what you mean. Let's read that again. There is no difference between biological and behavioral. Obviously there is. People can be born fully fledged XY males, but act very feminine, and have very feminine tendencies, and very feminine inclinations, or what is considered classically, traditionally mainstream femininity. So you're wrong about that. We can actually see that with our eyes. Stop Stop basing your ideas on a book written by long-dead, arrogant, ill-informed people. Okay, I'm not basing my ideas necessarily on there. I'm taking those ideas into account. I'm taking those books into account. That is also why I no longer keep strict rabbinic law and why I no longer consider myself orthodox, because I saw certain things in halacha, in rabbinic law, that did not align with the values that I was espousing and with the views that I was holding. So I'm right on. I understand what you're saying, and I'm all for that. I don't know what you're talking about here. You are really part of the problem. Yes, I am. In my country, there is problem. That problem is the Jew. Do you believe in the Kabbalah? Nico, yes, I've been a student of the Tree of Life since I'm 16. And I don't know what it means to believe in the Kabbalah. I don't know what that means, but I am a student of the Tree of Life. That much is true. So you have become a law unto yourself. Yes and no. Yes and no. I pick and choose and I make no apology. If you want to say that I am a law unto myself, then feel free to say that, yes. I don't see it that way, but in some cases, yes, I pick and choose. So, yes, I'm a cherry picker. I'm a man of cafeteria faith. And that's the way that I'm... Now, I don't rule out going back to keeping strict rabbinic law in the future. I still maintain it's a wonderful path, it's a blessed way. I walked it for many, many years. I kept strict halacha, strict rabbinic law for years. And I see the value in it, and I know its power, I know its strength, but I could not abide by certain things that I was seeing happening before my very eyes in the state of Israel, in the land of Israel, the religious leaders. I decided I can no longer really call myself religious, nor do I want to put myself under that label of religious. I do not want to be associated so closely with that organized religion as such because of things that I saw, things that I experienced. And if you say that I have become a law unto myself, then yes, I suppose I have. You're ignoring me, dude, says Fatima. Ha 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 ha. See, once again, somebody else with their head up their ass who think that with 116 people, I'm ignoring them. People, get your heads out of your asses, really. It's nice, it's very warm and cozy in there, I know, but pull your head out of your ass and understand that I'm not ignoring anybody, I'm not censoring anybody. You may have noticed there are no mods here. I don't ban people, I don't put people in timeouts, I don't censor or filter people. It is a free-range chat, but there are over 120 people here right now, sometimes more, sometimes less, so the questions come and go rapidly. I have the laptop here open, I scroll down, I see a question, I address it on the phone, and then I scroll down. That's how it goes. So for you, Fatima, to think that I'm ignoring you, dude, ha 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 ha, that simply, A, reveals your ignorance about what a live stream is. B, it really does make you seem a little bit self-absorbed and with your head up your ass. So kindly pull it out, and we can have a discussion. And if I did miss you in the chat, and anybody else in the chat, please do leave a comment. I address every comment that is addressed to me that YouTube notifies me of. Sometimes I even look up things without YouTube notifying me because there have been times when I saw something that YouTube did not notify me of, and I know that there are glitches and YouTube misses certain things and some things are held by YouTube censorship. So I'm not ignoring you, dude, ha 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 ha. I literally have not seen your username here ever on the chat until I just now saw that, ironically, the one I'm reading is the one where you're saying that I'm ignoring you. Please, 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 don't be so arrogant as to think that I'm ignoring you. No, I'm not. There are many people here that are inadvertently, indirectly being ignored, but I still do say, I do not wish to ignore you. Leave a comment if I don't get to you in the chat. And Fatima, if you want me to read what it is you have to say, please do it again. And if I get to it when I scroll down, all the better. If I don't get to it, please leave a comment, and we can hash out whatever it is you want to hash out in the comments. Okay, Bazazao says, Buddha, I'm assuming you mean Buddha, can tell you that the body not belong to you, and you will give it away like Jesus for the monster that wants to keep on taking on the expanse of the passive judgment of karma without G. Okay, that went way over my head. That's way above my pay grade. I have no idea what you said. Simplify it for me, man. Explain it to me like I'm 5, all right? I'm ignorant. Explain it to me like I'm 5. Maybe I'll get it then. Do you feel a relief after 9th of Av? A relief? No, I feel like I never want to have to fast ever again. Not a fast of mourning. I want to fast more fasts of joy. I want to fast more fasts of jubilation and elation, and not of mourning and not of tragedy. Why Jews got banned from 109 countries? That is not true. It's historically false. It's Nazi propaganda that they themselves received from previous Jew haters. There weren't even 109 countries around at the time when this first was flying about. 15 to 20 countries overall across Jewish history is the amount of countries. That's what it is thought that we were kicked out of. We have been kicked out of towns, villages, counties, cities, and so on, but not 109 or 110 countries. That is Nazi propaganda that you are now spouting. Maybe do some research, Raul, before you say things that are blatantly false and full of hate and racism and Nazism. I would, curb that a bit. Curb your enthusiasm. Christians are God's only chosen people, says Calvin. All right, I'm not a Christian, so yes, I agree. Christians are human, right? Humanity is God's chosen people. Do you put on tefillin every day? No, I don't, Spy. I stopped putting on tefillin. The tefillin are indeed a mitzvah deoraita. The thing is, and I do have ways to back it up, and believe me, I've also spoken to the Nazarite Rabbi Yoshua Friedman about this. Nazarites either wear their tefillin all day or do not wear tefillin at all, because the hair of the Nazarite is the crown, right? Nezer Elohav al Rosho. The tefillin is leather. The tefillin is parchment. The tefillin is written by people. The hair is the organic crown. The hair of the Nazarite is the higher crown. And so Nazarites either do not wear tefillin or they wear them all day. That is the tradition, at least insofar as it's been understood by different Nazarites across the ages. I put on tefillin for the first 7 years of taking my vow, still into the Nazariteship, 7 years every single day, or just about every single day. Can't tell you precisely, but yes, I aimed to do it every single day, and many years before I took the Nazarite vow too, and I got the call to stop putting it on, and once again, I did not simply say, oh yeah, sure, and I took it off. No, I had to really do a lot of digging and soul searching, and I had to bring asmachtaot, I had to bring references, I had to understand what is it about me that is giving me the call to let go of the dead animal and the parchment and the scribe's letters, right? But I certainly got the gushpanka, I certainly got the seal of approval after I spoke to Rabbi Yoshua Friedman when he asked me about tefillin, and I told him what I had felt inside of me, and he said, yes, your intuition was correct. So I no longer put on tefillin. Yes, because to put on tefillin is basically to put the lower crown above the higher crown, and that is to sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, come on. Anyway, it's to put the lower on top of the higher, and it kind of mixes things up, so that's not okay. Let's see. Are Jews technically supposed to follow all Mosaic laws today? No, we have no temple, and so most of the laws, most of the 613 commandments pertain directly or indirectly to ritual worship, and we do not have currently ritual worship in the sense of offerings, incense, lighting the candles, right? So no. How can I be a good goy? By being a kind and caring individual. That is how you are a good goy. Same thing as how you can be a good yid. Do you have a day of rest like Sunday? Yes, it's called Sabbath, the Shabbat. That was yesterday. Let us continue. You're educated, man. No, Niv. No, I am standing on the shoulders, the broad and educated shoulders of those who came before me. I do not consider myself educated in the least. Get a haircut, hippie. Well, first of all, I am a hippie. I'll give you that. Second of all, the Nazarite is commanded to grow his or her hair out wild and free, so I cannot get my hair cut. I am under the Nazarite vow. To be hip means to be aware, and hippies were called this because the fact that they wanted to expand their awareness. That is what being a hippie is. So yes, I will not get a haircut, but I am indeed a hippie. Another super chat or super sticker came in. Okay, from Who Is. Thanks a lot, Who Is, and I'll remind you at this juncture that all of the money that you give to this channel after YouTube takes its cut goes 100% to charitable organizations here in Jerusalem that serve the entire population, East and West Jerusalem alike. They don't care who you are, they don't care where you come from, what your skin color is, what rash you have on your ass. If you're needy, if you're an individual or a family in need, they will care for you. And if you want to check out the references and the receipts, they are on my community tab in previous posts. I give every month. Hey, how was it, man? What was that? Good for you. I'll be done soon. So since you can't follow the laws, wouldn't you be angering God? No, we follow the laws that are still... What is it? Yes. We follow the laws that are still applicable, and we do that to the best of our ability. All I said is that the majority of the 613, more than half of the commandments, pertain to ritual worship of the temple. And so we are left now with the remnants, let's say, of the commandments that are at our disposal that we can keep, but we do try to keep those in earnest whenever they come across, right? The Hebrew people keeping the Torah to the best of our ability. K-Dog says, I will feel dirty and wild if I don't shave and cut my hair. Okay, if you want to feel dirty and wild, you can cut your hair and shave your beard and go wild and dirty in many other ways. Are you homeless? No, I'm not, JJ. Are you? Hopefully not. No, Ima's at work.
Does she have a computer?
I have no idea. Oh, wait, no. I think she's done with work and she's gone to her mother's. I'm not sure. I'm not sure right now. Alan Akhi says MER. Alan. Wassahalan. Cat Matt, you are loved. Thanks, man. I appreciate that, Cat. You look like you are crazy. No offense. You seem nice, though. Yes, I am crazy. I am a little bit crazy, and I want to keep it that way. What did Seal say? We're never going to survive unless we get a little crazy. That's right. to be crazy. That nose, says Eat My Sack. Ooh, wouldn't I love to eat that sack? Yes, the nose. Boing, boing, boing. It's a Jewish schnoz, to be sure. Why have we not destroyed Al-Masjid, the mosque? Why have we not destroyed it? I think that in 1967, when the Hebrew folk took over the Temple Mount, they gave the keys back to the Jordanian Waqf pretty rapidly, because I think that even though it was totally within our purview as the conquerors and the winners of the war and the victors to destroy the mosques and begin working on building the temple, I think the government decided to give the keys and the religious authority back to the Jordanian Waqf in order for the Muslim world not to gather up and gang up on Israel and obliterate it completely. Would it have happened? Maybe, maybe not. I think that was the conception. I think that the government said, if we keep the Temple Mount and if we even touch those mosques, even the faraway, fairly moderate, non-involved Muslim countries would rise up against us. I think that was the calculation there, but I can't tell you for sure. Makole, bro, good to see you on again, and it's good to see you, MER. Are you in the IDF? You look familiar. I was in the IDF for many years in mandatory service and reserve duty. I was discharged 5 years ago, Giraffe. Some of those laws, says Matt, were about removing sin through sacrifice, so the sins still stand. No. While there is no atonement in the way of sacrificial offerings, or the Holiday of Atonement where the high priest goes into the holiest of holies to burn the incense on the foundation stone or the Ark of the Covenant, there is atonement through prayer, fasting, meditation, kindness, charity. There's atonement through anything and everything, because ultimately it's you who need to undergo the change. God does not change. The divine revelation is something that comes in different forms depending on the human being, depending on the people of Israel, depending on humanity and the earthlings that are here. And so, even though there is no temple, there still is atonement. And you can argue over the fact that no, there is no full atonement because the divine masculine and feminine, the lower ones, have no union, ergo the higher ones cannot unify, and that's a whole Kabbalistic way of looking at it. But I do believe that atonement as such still does occur differently, dealing with the tools that are available when they're available, right, and using what is at our disposal. That is what I would say. Eichmann in Jerusalem. Oh, that was it. That's right. On the banality of evil and the and how it was the Jews and working with the Nazis. That's right. Okay, so I'll have to check that out. Yes, it is on my list. Thank you for reminding me. I think I'm going to spend the remainder of July and August reading the Brothers Karamazov, but I do want to get to that book. It sounds really interesting. Do you believe in God? Because Baal is called for your people. No daily work junk. Well, I'll bet you can work your junk. I don't know what believe in God means. What does believe mean to you? What does God mean to you? I don't know what that means to you, so I cannot agree or disagree with your question or address it. As for Baal is called for your people, that is mistaken. The Hebrews did worship Baal erroneously, worship all kinds of avatars of Baal up until the Second Temple era. And then at the beginning of the Second Temple era, the inclination for worshiping false gods or for worshiping the Hebrew God in false ways was taken away and out of the equation. And so since then, we have not worshipped Baal. Are there individual people in the Hebrew nation who might worship false gods and Baal among them? Likely, but it's not a very widespread, common, mainstream thing. Some continue to. Yes, Moochie, maybe some continue to. Maybe, I have no idea. Do you ever stay without sleep for over 24 hours? Yes, I do, but not very regularly. No, not very regularly. Changed your mind, said Salty Balls. Suck on my chocolate salty balls. Ah, yeah. Put them in your mouth and suck them. Yeah, baby. Suck on my chocolate salty balls. High in fiber, just suck at my balls. Israel is an island in the Arab world. Do you mean that as in an island? In what way do you mean an island? But yes, if you look at it from space, it does look like very kind of green around the desert. Yeah. Thank you for answering, says Daily Work. Hey, thank you for answering. I addressed your question. I don't have any answers. Block Frazzle by clicking on his picture. Who's Frazzle? Zbornak says, what's going on here, though? Whatever you want. Hey, Zbornak. Hello. Good morning, or it's afternoon now in Jerusalem. What are you up to? Where are you at in the world? How is your weekend going, or was? What do you want to talk about, Zbornak? Hit me. Address that island shit, though? What do you mean, Smoochie? I'm not sure what you mean by the island in the middle of the Arab world. I really don't know what you mean. Please stop arguing on YouTube Live and go outside. I do go outside regularly, Resonite, and I don't argue. I have a back and forth, a discourse. I'm not an arguer. I'm not a debater. Pardon me? Okay. So you pro-Palestine or pro-Israel? I mean, I'm Israeli, so I'm pro-Israel, but I'm also pro-peace. I'm pro-justice. That's what I'm pro of. Surrounded by Arabs. Yes, indeed. The Arab conquest came from Arabia. Jews came from Judea. So you can see who actually belongs here indigenously, so to speak. Aren't you ashamed being a Jew? That says hope and peace? No, not at all. Seeing Israel doing to the Palestinians what the Gestapo and Hitler did to you. No, there is no comparison whatsoever between the Holocaust and the final solution, and between the fact that Israel is fighting a defensive war against bloodthirsty, death-cult leaderships that do not want peace and only want death and horror and tragedy and martyrdom and glory to Allah, and who revel in death. How are you even able to compare the two things? It boggles my mind that people so flippantly or frivolously compare Nazi Germany to Israel, compare Gaza, that Israel disengaged from over 20 years ago, to a death camp. It boggles my mind how people think. Do people think that the Palestinians have no agency whatsoever? Do they want to infantilize the Palestinians to such a degree as to say they have no agency whatsoever? These are people who democratically elected Hamas as their leaders. What am I supposed to think? That these people want peace? How is that even going to be a thing? Now, this does not negate the fact that there are innocent men, women, and children there. Most of the current population is under 20, meaning that they were indoctrinated into all this, and they didn't vote for Hamas, but they got what they voted for. They got what their elders voted for. They need to band together and overthrow Hamas. We'll de-radicalize Israel and the Palestinian authorities, territories, and the Palestinian Authority will also get out of there, and then we can have justice and peace. Aren't I ashamed of being a Jew? First of all, some Jews would say that the connection between Jews and Israel is not the greatest. Second of all, I'm not one of them, I'm an Israeli. The point is, I understand Jews who disconnect from Israel as a thing, as a state, as a modern-day country. But regardless of all that, what Jews are doing to the Palestinians? Jews have offered the Palestinian leadership, Israel offered the Palestinian leadership, Gaza, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, more than once, possibly more than twice, and they rejected it. Israel withdrew from Gaza, Israel withdrew from southern Lebanon, Israel gave the Temple Mount back to Jordan, Sinai back to Egypt. We did all of this for peace. We've offered peace accords or agreements or deals to the Palestinian leadership over 10 different times, minor and small ones, rejected every single time. So what are you on about? Do you even know what you're talking about? You call yourself hope and peace, and I'm all for that, but I'm not naive, and I'm not a fool. I mean, I am a fool, but not in the sense of this. I know my history. What you're saying is absolute, just complete crap. Do your history, do your research, read some history. Are you Rastafarian? No, Pistons, I am not. Some Rastafarians take the Nazarite vow. I am a Hebrew Nazarite. That is why we both have dreads. Do you ever meet your followers for lunch at the Yehuda market? It's Machne Yehuda market in Jerusalem. My followers? I have no followers, nor do I want any followers. So I have no idea what you mean. Do you have any followers, Am Yisrael Chai? Do you meet them for lunch in the market? You offered a garage after you kicked them out of their houses, LOL. False, Cal Bundy. False. Terribly false. You don't get to start a war repeatedly, lose it repeatedly, and then bitch and moan and complain that people took your homes. That is not the way it works. That is not the way it has ever worked. Land is purchased by the Jews before 1948. Land was won by the Jews in wars that they didn't start, and land was taken over by Jews because the inhabitants of those lands and homes, they went away at the behest of their own leaders, who told them, clear out, we'll slaughter all the Jews, you'll be back in 2 or 3 days tops, and that's it. It will be Judenrein, without any Jews. So, A, you too are ignorant of the history of this land, you don't know the nature of war, and you don't know what it means to actually start or win a war if this is what you say. Furthermore, kicked them out of their houses. This is our ancestral home as much as it is their ancestral home. The difference is that we don't start wars. We accepted the partition plan. They rejected the partition plan. They started wars repeatedly, lost repeatedly, and then bitched and moaned and complained. Even the Nakba, the catastrophe, which people say has to do with Palestinian displacement and some bullshit like that, has nothing to do with it. The term Nakba was coined by a Syrian academic to describe not the Jewish aggression of the Zionist colonial settler pig dogs, but the failure of the Arab armies to annihilate the state of Israel. That is the actual catastrophe that is mentioned when the word Nakba was coined as such, and the bloodthirsty, victim-crying Palestinian leaders, warmongering Palestinian leaders, co-opted it, as it were, or adopted it and manipulated it sort of to mean, and they rewrote history, that Nakba means the catastrophe of the Jew versus the poor defenseless Palestinians. Bullshit. No such thing. No such thing. Read it up on it. Crazy AF, says Zangari RC. You're darn tootin' right I am. I have one more cookie and a bit of coffee, and then I'm gonna go. All right. Cookie. Oh yeah. All right, one or two more, and then I'm gonna go. Israel elected the child genocide Netanyahu. So first of all, there is no genocide going on, Doy Siles. Second of all, you're right. I have not voted in 20 years. I never voted for Netanyahu. I'm not interested in voting for Netanyahu, and I will be voting against Netanyahu. I don't know yet for whom. I'll figure that out in August. You know, the different parties that are running for election in October, and I will be voting after not voting for 20 years because he needs to go, and the entire administration needs to go. We need new leadership, we need new blood in the Knesset, in the government. So yes. You are the illustration of liberalism. No, Yokis, I don't think that I am. I think that I'm not a liberal, I'm not a conservative, I'm not on the left or the right or the center. I go on a case-by-case basis. I am not political in the least. I don't have any philosophy or conception other than, you know, the Torah and the commandments. And that is what I go with. And if you give me the scenario and you give me a story and you share the details, I'll give you my view on it and what I think should be done. But I don't have any pre-packaged notion about everything. So, no, I'm not a liberal. And I'm not the illustration of liberalism either, I think. Maybe, maybe not. I have no idea. Depends who you ask. So, as I was saying, Doy Slaz, there is no genocide. And if you're worried about the children, I am too. It's a damn shame that children need to die in a war. Maybe if Hamas didn't use them as human shields, treat them like cannon fodder, offer them as sacrificial lambs to become martyrs for their propaganda purposes, for their religious purposes, and to get more money that they can steal from their people, maybe the kids would not have to die if Hamas did not embed itself deep into the civilian population and put its weapons depots and its combatants and its munitions and its headquarters and communications places in mosques and homes and schools and hospitals and underground and in UNRWA vehicles, Red Crescent ambulances and so on. They are cynical abusers of their own population. They piss all over them. They don't care about them. They will gladly sacrifice every last innocent man, woman, and child in Gaza in order to line their pockets with more money and fatten their bank accounts with more of your hard-earned taxes and humanitarian aid. And they steal the aid, and they pump up the prices of the black market, all the while blaming the Zionists, keeping their population in poverty, in squalor. They're not interested in peace. They're simply interested in Israel not having a land. They're not interested in raising the quality of life of their people. They're just interested in death. They are a disgusting, warmongering death cult. That is what those people are. So, as for Israel elected Netanyahu, yes, and I didn't vote for him. Okay. Voting out Netanyahu is your demise. Well, let's put it this way, Frankie. If I do my research and I see no candidate and no party that I can even a little bit say is the lesser of those evils, and if Netanyahu is the best of all the options, I'm going to continue not voting. Pardon me, I'll continue not voting. Because I think politics are horrible, toxic, vile. I also think that it's a game, and I think that those who are actually voted in are not the ones in control. I think that they are puppets pulled, the ones who are pulling the strings are people who have not been voted in, people with money, people with power, people with influence, people who run circles around these politicians, lobbyists of different kinds, people with interests in different things. And I'm just a lowly civilian. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. I don't know what goes on in these government buildings. I don't know what goes on after the meetings and in back alleys of the Knesset, and I have no idea. I really don't. Was Hamas involved when Israel bombed those schools? I don't know which schools you mean, but I'm inclined to say yes. Hamas intentionally embeds itself into schools and hospitals and mosques and places that would otherwise be under the protection of the Geneva Convention. And Israel is signed to the Geneva Convention, though Israel at times ignores it, like with the 556 millimeter rounds that it uses. But, or I've heard also that they've recently used phosphorus bombs again, though I'm not sure. And that's also against the Geneva Convention. But as for Hamas using the population and then hiding behind them, using them as human shields and cannon fodder, this has been proven beyond the shadow of a doubt. They are glad to do this, because the more people dead, the more people believe Hamas propaganda. Because people, for some stupid fucking reason, people equate higher death count and more destruction of property to them being the victim. And I always say, by that rationale, you would be rooting for Nazi Germany, because more Germans died than Allied forces, and more buildings were destroyed in Germany, right, than in other places. Ergo, by that rationale, you would think that the Germans are the victims. More died, and more property and structures were damaged. So if that's your criteria for who you're rooting for, I would take a strong, sharp reality check. But yes, I would say that Hamas indeed was involved in those schools, in those hospitals, in those mosques. There are many documented times when Hamas indeed did this for the sake of raising the blood, raising the body count, because it gets people all riled up, because people hear the news and people see the footage and they act on emotion. It's like, oh my God, how can we let this continue? And that's all well and good. The thing is that you can't let the emotion dictate who is the victor and who is the loser, who is the victim and who is the victor, who is Goliath, who is David. You can't let your heart do that. When your heart sees a kid blown to pieces, of course you will say whoever did that is a monster. Of course. Nobody's taken that away from you. Ask yourself, what happened and why? The answer is not Israel. The blood of these innocent men, women, and children is on the hands of Hamas, not Israel. And if there are individual soldiers, statesmen, leaders, politicians who have genocidal intent and who carry it out, they belong in prison, not in the army, not in the Knesset, not in the government. They belong in prison. They should be brought to justice, put on trial, truth will out, and they will get what they deserve. On that we can agree. God kicked the Jews out, says Salty Balls. Yes, and in the Torah it says that the Jews, or the Israelites, will always make a comeback. Because even though the Jews transgress, and even though the Jews break the covenant remains unbroken, and it is always awaiting the return of the Jews to the path and the way and the land. Now you could argue over what should come first, and the argument is still raging on. The debate is ongoing. But that is actually in the Torah. Even after everything, even after you are sold into slavery and lands that you do not, of the language of which you do not speak, and you're left just a remnant of what you were, the covenant remains. You will atone, you will repent, you will make a spiritual comeback and a physical comeback to the land. This is what the Torah says, and this is what has happened throughout any exile that the Jews have endured. Settler violence caused October 7th. Sure thing, Zangari. Sure thing. It's not that Hamas are a warmongering, bloodthirsty death cult that revels in bloodshed. No. It's settler violence. After Israel disengaged from Gaza almost 20 years before October 7th, yes, it's settler violence. How delusional do you have to be to say that and even believe a word of it can possibly be true? And I'm not vindicating the the settler violence. I will stand beside you and protest the unprovoked violence, the crimes that settlers are doing against people who have done them no harm. I'm with you on that. To say that settler violence caused October 7th is some of the dumbest crap I've ever heard anyone say, and you're not the first one. Again, read some history, do some research, instead of parroting terrorist propaganda and Jew-hating opinions just for the sake of hating Jews. You might learn something. You just might. On that lovely note, I'm going to say goodbye. If I missed you in the chat, I'm sorry. Leave a comment. I address every comment that is addressed to me that YouTube notifies me of, and sometimes even if it doesn't notify me. If you want to hit me up in the DMs, Hebrew Nazarite, look for my tree on X, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I don't post, really, but I'm there for the DMs. I will see you on the next live stream where the wonders never cease. Be blessed. Be a blessing to others. Be the light in other people's lives. Be the light in your own life. A quick prayer for justice, for peace, for love, for unity. May we be able to overcome our differences. May we be able to overcome our own individual shortcomings and failures and faults and inadequacies. May we be able to bridge the gaps of our misunderstandings. May we be able to embrace each other with our genuine humanity as earthlings made in the image of God. May war and bloodshed and terrorism and negative vibration be lifted clean out of creation, even right now as I am speaking these words. May we know times of justice and peace and prosperity and love all across creation in this multiverse of multiverses that we inhabit. May the spirit of the divine revelation cover us all as water covers the seabed. May we know better times. May we be better than what we are. May we do better each and every day. Until the next time, peace and love from Jerusalem. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. God bless. L'chaim.